City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday the 13th of December 2022. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the council, including transferring outside Australia.
Council acknowledges that we're meeting on traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today, and we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations who are present today. The Council acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site for Adelaide and the design of the city for 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the works of the City of Adelaide. Direct and prosper its deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of this city. Amen.
Can I ask all those present to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country at sea, on land and in the air? Thank you. Please be seated. So we have no apologies or leave of absence to be recorded. Could I ask someone to move the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of November 2022, that they be taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of our proceedings? Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Deputations. In your agenda, there was a request from Ms Ruth Mackenzie from the Adelaide Festival to discuss the program for the event, and that matter's been withdrawn and has been deferred until the 31st of January. At the same time, we were asked by Mr Robert Farnan if he could make a submission about the upcoming state government's planning review. I actually refused the request based on the length of the council meeting tonight, and suggested that as we have an extension with the plan review timing, and I've written a letter to the Minister asking for a further extension, we have longer to prepare our substantive submission and incorporate the views of the electorate. He has, however, sent me his notes, which I'll distribute to members, and I'll feed those into the planning discussion. We have an opportunity to meet Mr Farnan again in the future. We have no petitions. And the first item for decision is item 9.1, which is the report of the Audit and Risk Committee from the 28th of October. I'd like someone to move noting of the report. Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Davis. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. And I'd point out that most of this material is in item 10.10, further down the agenda, in the strategic alignment, dynamic city portion of the agenda. If we move on now to 10, item 10, that's the e-scooter extension. This has been going on for some time and has been deferred several times. Now the matter is in the upper house for a select committee and we're being asked to defer it again. Councillor Martin.
Lord Mayor, I wonder if I can move an alternative motion.
Is this it on? Yes.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So thank you. That's amended just to bring it a 6-month extension, which should be enough time for us to do our complete our consultation and make a submission.
Yes, Lord Mayor, and additionally, the alternative motion invites the operators to make submissions to us directly about reforms that they'd like to see. It also requests that the administration finalise all of the data which is available to it, including consultations, and it notes, as you suggest, that the Select Committee will report when the Parliament resumes in February.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Kouros, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, I'll speak briefly to it. This is probably one of the world's longest trials. It will be 4 years in February. And I note that murder trials generally last only about 8.6 days, so this sets a record. But nevertheless, it is a matter of both some controversy in the community and also of enormous pleasure to many users. The difficulty arises, in my view, in that after these 4 years, there is no real template about their use. On the one hand, they are regarded, rightly so, as an alternative means of transport and a valuable addition to public transport in the City of Adelaide. And yet there are others in our community, particularly elderly people, some of whom have been in touch with me, as I'm sure they have been in touch with other members of Council, to express concern about their personal safety when they encounter the devices on the footpath. It is time that we move to a point where there was an operating framework that both the operators and the community could live with, and I think it is incumbent on the government to lead the way through the recommendations of the Select Committee and ultimately through the Minister responsible. I hope that this motion at least applies some pressure to government to recognise that there is a need for a positive operating framework to be developed, one that provides assurances to the community about their safety, not only from the risk of collision but also the tripping hazards that sometimes occur, but also security to the operators to understand what is required by government at all levels, including the City of Adelaide. It does say 6 months, although I do concede, Lord Mayor, that if at the point of 6 months, the 30th of June, there is some reason that suggests that we need to reconsider that, then I'm open to that. But I do think, and it is the intention of this motion, that we ought to be moving to a resolution that the trial ends and that we have a means of transport that is regulated and works within an operating framework that is acceptable to all parties.
Thank you. Would you like to speak, Councillor Kouros?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I rise in support of the amendment. I think it's a good amendment. It's a good way forward in order to be able to work with the community. There have been a lot of concerns. It gives the opportunity to work in collaboration with the state government in what they get from the consultation, and be able to come forward to resolving a lot of the issues that we have had with the e-scooters, but noting that they are enjoyed by the public, but also noting that we need to be measured in regards to the safety of them.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lai.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. May I request that the administration to take consideration into competing mobility options? I understand there are alternative options being sought for permits from the council, such as the e-bikes. So I'm not sure what's that context will impact on this extension.
So the question is, would you like that to be part of an amendment, or would that be taken on board by the administration as one of the matters that will be discussed in the report?
Thank you. Through the Chair, we can certainly take that on board and make sure that's incorporated.
Thank you.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Lee? Thank you. Is there any debate on that? Councillor Snape. Councillor Ho, sorry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a few questions, though. First question: is the administration aware aware that, like in any other capital city in Australia, that how the e-scooters operate and how the e-bikes operate in other capital cities?
That will be in the report.
Thank you. Through the Chair. Yes, this has certainly been a topic of conversation at a capital city level through the Lord Mayor's network as well as the CEO network, and obviously we can include those elements within the next report.
All right, thank you. And second question is, have the administration have got any plans in terms of how to increase the safety of the e-scooter operation?
Maybe in the report, I think.
Thank you. Through the Chair. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, we can certainly share what we have done over the 4 years in terms of improving the safety for users as well as for people on the street. So various things have been done over the last 4 years, and there's certainly other opportunities as well.
All right, thank you so much. Because I just like to flat out that I seriously have a lot of concerns in terms of allowing e-scooters to be on the footpaths at the speed of 15k an hour. Thank you.
I think that all of us heard this during the election campaign. So, Councillor Snape, do you have an alternate view?
I just wanted to speak to the motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I very much support the use of e-scooters in our city. They are a modern, dynamic and efficient alternative to car travel. However, I, like many other people in the room, have become exasperated with the two main issues associated with the current trial. Number one, the dumping of e-scooters in inconvenient places on our footpaths. And in fact, this isn't just an inconvenience, but also a health and safety issue for those with visual impairments, perhaps. But also an accessibility issue. I've seen firsthand a woman in a wheelchair struggle to negotiate an intersection, which had several e-scooters strewn across the path. Part two, the speed in which the e-scooters travel down some of the footpaths. I think most of us will have seen the footage of of the unfortunate woman in North Adelaide being bowled down, I think on Melbourne Street. This would be mitigated in my mind had our city moved towards, in previous years, towards a more active transport-focused city with adequate separated bike lanes across the city. That wouldn't be as much of an issue. Now, I have heard about the improvements being made in other cities, capital cities around Australia, including geotagging or digital docking bays, and technology which allows e-scooters to travel faster on bike lanes and roads, but slower when on footpaths. Now, I know, I think we all understand here that the extension is being given as the state government looks into these improvements and legislating for these improvements to happen. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. These are wonderful technology, but just not being used in a smart way at the moment. As such, I certainly support an extension of the trial. Hopefully we can work with the state government, offer suggestions, listen to the companies, work together and find a way forward. Thank you.
I'd like to move an amendment. After the words authorise the Lord Mayor to write to the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, I'd like to include expressing the Council's support for alternative micro-transport options in the city as part of a strategy to address climate change. And urging them to adopt the necessary legislation required to improve safety. And then followed by and requesting an extension.
I think that's a valid amendment. It's not a negative. It expresses an alternate next review.
I'll just speak to it. Everybody who's support... Oh, sorry. Everyone who's spoken to the original motion expressed that they were supportive of having alternative forms of transport in the city. I think everybody also agrees that if we're going to address climate change and reduce our carbon in the city, then we'll need to look at these alternatives. During the last 6 months or so, I've been exploring this issue quite a bit and talking to the people also who run the e-scooter companies, and they have informed me that our legislation is some of the oldest, is the oldest in Australia, because we were the first to do this sort of transport. And so that's why we have a 25 kilometre weight limit and a particular height limit on our scooters. It doesn't allow for better safety measures to be put on the scooters, because that will make them too heavy or too high. There's a lot of really great additions that have been made to the scooters in Brisbane and in Sydney, and I think we need to have a look at those, but we can't do it here. We need the state government to legislate the electric scooter legislation or the electric vehicle legislation in order for that to occur. So I don't want us to write to the just for asking more time. I want them actually to know that we have a view, that we're not opposed to this form of transport, and we actually need them to step up and look at this, because we can't improve safety on our own, that it's required to be done through legislation.
I suspect we're all in furious agreement over this. Question?
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I just have a question. I just remember one of our previous councillors that has spoke to this in the past in regards to e-scooters, and I'm just wondering if administration have provided that in the report as what is being suggested here as other options and other strategies in regards to e-scooters. I just remember this conversation coming up before in chamber and requesting it to be part of in the past. No?
I don't think we have access to this at the moment, but it can be incorporated in the report.
I just wanted to know if it was already in there, so we're not doubling up on something that we've already talked about and done. That's what I'm just worried about.
We may be doubling up, but it can go in the letter and probably won't do any harm. Okay. So unless anybody has an alternate view, would we be happy to put the motion? An alternate view. Councillor Davis.
I'm not sure that I'm confident in voting for the motion. So the statement that scooters are beneficial for climate change or even have a positive impact on climate change is not a fact that I don't think that this council should be so confident to accept. When you talk about climate change and you talk about the impacts, it's very possible that these types of infrastructures actually have a negative impact or a positive one. So, for example, what is the reduction in the number of people walking to work and now taking e-scooters as an alternative, which then demands fossil fuels, lithium batteries, the construction of these scooters, which then degrade at a rapid rate. Versus, say, for example, taking active transport or, say, a bus, for example. So, I know that it's very easy for everyone to claim, or it's very easy to make the claim that something could be seen as beneficial to the climate. But we, as a decision-making body, unless you're 100% sure and you've seen that data and you've seen those studies done which actually show you the net decrease in the amount of carbon emissions that these types of transport solutions actually drive in our city, I would never be so confident to say, for example, that you are actually driving a benefit to climate change without seeing that data and without seeing that probably PhDs and studies into it. And I think we actually potentially, when we make these statements, if we're not backed up with facts, we could actually be having a harmful impact by the creation of additional lithium batteries, for example, that doesn't necessarily result in benefit to climate change. Absolutely benefits moving around the city and accessibility of the city, but that's a very different issue from climate change. So I perhaps ask the move of the amendment to set out the basis or why we should be confident even in my short period of listening to the debate, there has been a number of articles that have come up and actually questioned the environmental credentials of e-scooters within cities. So I would ask the mover of the amendment to set out the net benefit or net reduction in of carbon emissions for our city as a result of these particular e-scooters, taking into account that people might be now stop walking from place to place and now taking e-scooters, and actually, could that have a positive impact on our carbon emissions and therefore anti-climate change?
So the question is, are we going to amend this, or would you like to vote against it, Councillor Davis?
I'm asking the mover to set out where the data, I suppose, that demonstrates that e-scooters are beneficial for climate change, and that they actually do result in net reduction and are beneficial for our environment.
So Councillor Giles, would you like to amend your motion to say a strategy to quantify and address the impact on climate change?
Lord Mayor, no, I don't want to. I would just refer Councillor Davis to the words "as part of a strategy to address climate change," because it's just a part of the whole strategy to address climate change.
Okay, so I think we've got a view now. Shall we move the motion as printed, the amendment as printed in red? So that's moved by Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour of the amendment? That's carried. Would you like your dissent recorded, Councillor Davis? No. Thank you.
It would be good if you could do ask for those again, so we can see.
Thank you.
No, not division, just
Division called.
Council members, a division has been called on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh, Councillor Ho, Councillor Kouros, Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentritt, Councillor Snape, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
As yet unidentified, and work to be done on getting permissions. Councillor Snape, moved. Would you like to speak to the motion? Oh, seconded by Councillor Kouros. Would you like to speak or just move?
I will speak just very briefly, just to acknowledge Ruby Hunter and Archie Roach and the fantastic work that they've done in their lifetimes to enhance the musical culture and the wider culture of Australia. And this is it's a small tribute, but it's a fitting tribute, and it's something that I think I hope everyone in this room supports. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kouros, would you like to speak to this or not? No. Unless there's any dissenting view, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. 10.3. This is the nomination of a council member as well as myself to the Audit and Risk Committee, and there's a procedural matter here which is to move as printed, which is the decision to actually appoint people and have proxy members as well. The proxy members will take my place and the other councillor as they're nominated if we're absent. So if I could call for the motion to be moved as printed 1 to item 4.2. That actually is setting up the process. Councillor Siebentritt moved, seconded Councillor Martin. All those in favour, that's carried. And now may I call for nominations for one council representative to go onto this committee. Councillor Abrahimzadeh.
May I nominate Councillor Davis?
Councillor Davis, yes. Councillor Martin.
Yes, can I propose Councillor Jingley, please?
Councillor, sorry, I didn't catch the... Councillor Lee, sorry, I didn't hear.
Sorry.
Does Councillor Lee accept? Do you accept, Councillor Lee? Yes, thank you. Are there any other nominations? If not, we'll have a poll for that position. We'll have ballot papers. I don't know that we can we? It's not, we don't usually make a pitch. I'm sorry. Well, would
you like me to explain that they're selecting out of the two numbers?
Yes, please do.
So, council members, you have a ballot paper in front of you. You are selecting only one of either Councillor Davis or Councillor Lee.
Do I put a vote in?
Sorry, I have a question. Do we vote for ourselves or not?
I'm sorry? Thank you. Sorry? Yes, at some stage we could get an electronic voting scheme. I was just asking who was missing because of the gap in the seating. Oh, to see the screen. Thank you. I kept counting and seeing 11 people and not understanding who was missing. So it's just worth noting that the independent member's term expires in November of next year, so we'll be calling for nominations for new members, I think, for those positions, because some of them have been in place for some time. Councillor Lee is a successful nominee. Thank you. Councillor Lee was a successful nominee, and his position was 7-5. Congratulations. So now I would call for the appointment, a motion to appoint Councillor Adelaide, and seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. And the next item is to have proxies. Councillor Davis, and a second proxy. Councillor Martin, are you prepared to accept that proxy nomination? Yes, thank you.
What's your attendance record?
Well, 0 to date. So could I call for someone to make those appointments as voted? Councillor Abrasimide, Councillor Giles, all those in favour? That's carried. Congratulations, Councillor Davis and Councillor Martin. The next item is 10.5. Could I... 10.4, I'm sorry. I'd ask someone to approve the appointment of council member to the City of Adelaide Council Assessment Panel until the 31st of December 23. So could you move the procedural motion, Councillor Hope? And all those, seconded by Councillor Abrasimide. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now I call for a nomination. Thank Councillor Snape. Councillor Martin, are you prepared to take that role?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Are there any other Councillor Ho?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Councillor
Abrahimzadeh. And you're happy to take that?
I'll respectfully reject that. Thank you.
So we only have Councillor Martin. Any other? Councillor Snape?
As a procedural, could I propose, as a motion from the floor, that we have a deputy / a proxy?
Yes, I was going to move that afterwards because
I shall withdraw.
I was going to ask someone to move for a proxy because if you recall in the discussion yesterday, we were told that a proxy could be in place and we hadn't had one procedurally within our agenda, but it does seem a wise idea, so I'm happy to move that next. So are there any other nominees? Councillor Martin, you look anxious.
I think I need to leave the room, Lord Mayor.
Yes. I think you're the only nominee, though, so it...
I still think I have
Okay. So we haven't moved it yet, have we?
No, that's right. So now we just need to...
So now, I've forgotten who moved it.
No one yet. We're going to move the motion to appoint.
So could someone move a motion to appoint Councillor Martin? Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Siebentrit. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. All those in favour, yes. Is anyone against? Okay. Would you like your dissent recorded? Division?
Council members, the division has been called on the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh, Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentrit, Councillor Snape, Councillor Davis and Councillor Giles.
Thank you. I think that's been carried. So we'll ask the Deputy Lord Mayor to return, and on his return we'll be moving item 10.5, which is the establishment of membership for the...
Do we want to do the deputy position?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the deputies.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow. We need deputies. A deputy. Are you prepared to accept that?
He might actually.
Would you be prepared to accept a deputy, Councillor?
No.
Okay.
Well, then I will accept.
Councillor Noon has accepted, so we should ask her to leave the room while we...
That's fine, yes, because we'll need a motion.
We will need a motion, so would you mind leaving the room because it's remunerated? Moved by Councillor Martin and seconded by Councillor Snape to appoint. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Appoint as deputy. Next, the Reconciliation Committee, which is item 10.5. This incorporates the Lord Mayor and 3 councillors. And we have Ghana representatives and some named individuals who are on item 7.1. So, as a procedural matter, could somebody move all of the items on this agenda paper as 1 to 10, please, and then moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Davis. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now could I have nominations for 3 councillors? Councillor Snape. Who was the third?
Was that Councillor Siebentrit?
I had Councillor Giles, Councillor Elliott, and the third? Councillor Siebentrit. Okay. Sorry, so the acoustics are not too good.
Just to check that they're all accepted.
Are there any other nominees? And will each of those 3 accept the nominations? Yes? Thank you. In that case, could we move to appoint Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Kouros? All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. Now, the next item is the Parklands Authority. Council may choose in this item an option. If you look at 4.1, there's an option to defer the decision on the external members on the basis that there were few nominees. I think there were 4, and it would be reasonable for you to make a decision to defer the appointment based on a targeted recruitment or a further round announcing activity in this area. Councillor Martin?
Yes, I would like to formally propose that the matter be deferred until the next meeting of Council.
So what you could do is appoint a council member to the committee and defer the decision of the external appointees. Then at least the councillors could be engaged in part of the recruitment and have an induction. So.
I'm happy to move as you suggest, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So that would be moving item 1, item 2, and not 3.1 or 3.2, but 3.3. And then approve 4.2, not 4.1, and approves the appointment of the Indigenous representatives and their proxies. So that's moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Thank you. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now can I call for nominations for the council representative? Councillor Giles?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Snape.
Councillor Snape, yes. Accepted. Councillor Adbrizimade?
Can I nominate Councillor Davis, please?
Councillor Davis? You accept, Councillor?
I accept that. Yep, thank you.
Could we have our polling slips now, please?
So, council members, just to remind you, you have ballot sheets on your desk. No.
You can vote.
Yes.
You can vote for yourself, even.
Just through the ballot you can vote, that's correct. So you're selecting either Councillor Snape or Councillor Davis for the position on the Cattle Tiller Board.
Yeah, it's not the motion.
Not the
motion. We're having the ballot first, which you can vote for, but then the appointment you can't. Sorry? It's done. So this will begin in the new year, and the next meeting will be in February.
Sorry, you're right, Elliot. 3.2, I think, was going to be moved.
Oh yes, we were going to move 3.2, which was consistent with the Indigenous Culture and Reconciliation Experience criterion. I apologise, 3.2. Could we... I'm sorry, we moved in error without 3.2, so we'll have to move that separately. Thank you for picking that. And there's no proxy for this, is there? So the successful nominee is Councillor Snape, 5-7. Congratulations, Councillor. Now, could I ask you to leave the room? And could someone move the appointment of Councillor Lai? Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Kouros? No? Councillor Noon? Seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Of course.
So, Lord Mayor, I can speak to it at the present moment? I can speak to it? I'd like to speak against this appointment, and the reason why I'd like to speak against this appointment is maybe the new councillors aren't aware. I tried to make everyone aware of it earlier today in regards to the behaviour of Councillor Snape at a meeting held at Parklands Authority or Catering last year, whereby it's been reported by the advertiser. I've got the article here if anybody wants to have a look at it, because you appointed somebody that basically came to the board meeting. He basically sat at the table and he was asked to move. He did not move. He did not listen. He made a spectacle of himself in the board meeting, and in turn had to be escorted out by security. I don't have faith in anyone with that sort of behaviour at a boardroom. What happens here is a chamber, it's political, but this is a very important appointment. So I am disappointed that my colleagues didn't take on board what I was trying to say in regards to this appointment, and how important it is that we work collaboratively with the people that are appointed independently on this board. And I certainly hope that maybe he can reflect on his behaviour and not bring in Greens policies or his own personal views policy to a board which acts independently and for the City of Adelaide.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Noon.
Look, Councillor Kouros did actually contact me, and I did receive the article, and that was very close to the council meeting. And so I said to Councillor Kouros that thank you for her side of the story. I did actually consult with Councillor Snape. I was satisfied that he was regretful. He was, pardon the pun, a little green at the time. He actually felt that he was misinformed, and that yes, he did regret his behaviour. The article in the paper did actually present it in a certain light, and we all know that that can sometimes be misconstrued. So I've moved this because I do think that he's the right person for this committee. Thank you. If there are no other comments, I think that there's a code of conduct that is relevant for the Parklands Authority, and that may have been upgraded since that episode. So.
Say that there's a code of conduct.
I think the code of conduct amongst local government subcommittees may have had an impact on that group.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll need to take that on notice in terms of whether, like other subsidiaries, whether they have a separate code of conduct. But certainly, the behavioural management framework that's coming in place does require council members who are representing council to adhere to certain standards.
Sorry, CEO, just so I can clarification, so you mean to tell me that the code of conduct has been lodged in regards to this incident, or are you saying that...
No, there's in place now the behavioural management
criteria. Oh, the new one that we have in place, right. Thank you.
So that's an improvement in the system.
Well, it reflects if there's an improvement of behaviour.
No. So can I just ask if we can then move that motion? It was moved by... I've lost the... I think it was Councillor Lee and seconded by Councillor Noon. All those in favour? That's carried. Would you like a division? A division?
Council members, a division has been called on the motion. All those in favour, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentritt, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
Thank you, that's carried. Now I have to go back and pick up clause 3.2 with my apologies. This is to appoint Tanya Taylor to this committee. So would someone move? Councillor Elliott moved, Councillor Abrazimide seconded. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. So ACMA 10 point... Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry.
There is one more, yeah. So we've already got we have the ballot. Someone wants to move.
4.2, which is to call for nominations for a councillor as deputy member. Would Councillor Davis be prepared to do that?
Sure.
Thank you. So if there are no other nominees, will someone move appointing 4.2, which is a deputy member. Moved by Councillor Abrazimide and seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Noon, could you turn your mic off? Thanks. So the next item is 10.7, which is the Central Market Authority. Could I ask someone to move the procedural item 1? Moved by Councillor Ho, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. And now could I call for one nomination, please? Councillor Lee?
If I may nominate Councillor Kamonun.
Thank you. Are you prepared to accept, Councillor Noon? Thank you. Councillor Abrazimide seconded.
No. I've got another.
Nominating someone else?
Yep. Councillor Kouros, please.
Councillor Kouros, yes. Two nominees, so I think we may need. Did Councillor Kouros accept? Did Councillor Kouros, you accepted? Thank you. I think we have to have another ballot.
Council members, you're voting for one member out of Councillor Kouros and Councillor Noon.
Sorry, can I ask a question to the CEO? Is this being live streamed? You said it was being, because last time it wasn't working. Yes?
Councillor Martin.
Lord Mayor, I wonder if the room might accept an amendment to the item, a minor amendment.
Sorry, which item? The one we've just voted on?
No, the one that we're about to.
10.8?
Yes.
Can I suggest one amendment might be to delete part 7, which is just confusing?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. And I'd also like to propose, subject to there being a seconder, that the capital city appointment be for a period of 2 years rather than 4, in order to ensure that other members have an opportunity to serve on this important committee.
Yes, I think that's a reasonable request. So that could be an amendment.
It's paragraph 5. Yes, that I think. And remove municipal terms. Yes. So will that be November 22, December 22 to October? Yes, or December is fine, or November, whatever you. Yes, that's fine. Yep. So that is only for the Capital City Committee. That's the only amendment. Well, look, Lord Mayor, I formed the view that the deputy is probably not going to turn up to all that many meetings in the course of 4 years, and therefore it's not unreasonable that that position should last for the 4 years. So we will amend that as suggested. Can I ask you now to remove that motion, 1 to 6 with an amendment in part 5, and part 7 deleted because it's just confusing? Yes. Call for nominations will be the Adelaide Festival Centre Trust. Councillor Abrasimide.
Are we nominating, Lord Mayor? Are we doing the nomination now? We're past procedurals?
Yes.
Yes. Can I nominate Councillor Kouros, please?
Councillor Kouros, yes. Councillor Kouros, you're happy to accept? No? Councillor Elliott.
Lord Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councillor Snape.
Councillor Snape. You'll accept? If there are no nominees, that means there's one nomination. So, sorry, Councillor.
Can I nominate Councillor Ho, please?
Councillor Ho. Happy to accept. So in that case, with just 2 nominees, we should have a ballot.
Oops. Council members, you need to select only one from Councillor Ho or Councillor Snape. Council members, the division has been called on the motion. All those in favour, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Ho, Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentritt, Councillor Davis, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
Can I nominate Councillor Couros and Councillor Davis, please?
Accepted. Any other nominees? In that case, it's just one nomination. Sorry? Festival Corporation Board. Councillor Giles, would you accept?
That's 3 nominees. We can put forward 3. Yep.
So there are now 3 nominees, and they are.
We have.
Yes, please.
We've got Councillor Couros, Councillor Davis, Councillor Giles, and we can put forward 3 names, so that's okay. We don't need a vote. We just need a motion to do that.
Why don't we need a vote?
Because the minister wants 3 names.
Okay.
And they each.
So it's Councillor Giles, Councillor Davis, and Councillor Couros.
Those 3 should leave.
So could I? Apparently, we sent forward 3 names to be appointed, and could I therefore ask those 3 members to leave the room, and then we will decide on nominating those names for the minister. Sorry? Councillor Abrahimzadeh is going to move it, and seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
We didn't get votes over there.
They can come back in again. Thank you, members. The next item on this agenda is to have 2 nominations for the Capital City Committee, moved by Councillor Snape. Who?
Councillor Couros.
Councillor Couros, yes. Capital City Committee. Councillor Light.
I'll nominate Councillor Ho.
Councillor Ho. Councillor Martin.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Siebentritt.
Councillor Siebentritt. There are 3 nominations, therefore, so we will have a ballot. So how do we do this? Is this preferential voting? Do we get 2 votes each? We have 2 votes each, thank you. Is that clear? 2 votes. Would you clarify, just make sure we get this right?
So, council members, you're voting for 2 out of the 3 members, which are Councillor Couros, Councillor Ho and Councillor Siebentritt.
Successful nominees, Councillors Siebentrit and Councillor Couros.
Can I congratulate Councillor Siebentrit and Councillor Couros? They're the successful nominations. And so can I move appointment of those? They don't have to leave the room because there's no remuneration. So would someone move the appointment? Councillor Abrazimade and Councillor Ho. Thank you. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now the next item may not be so avidly fought over, but we do desperately need an Australia Day Council representative.
Sorry, we'll do a deputy member.
I nominate Councillor Lee. Can I actually speak to it a bit? No.
Lord Mayor, apologies. Could you put the microphone on? I'm struggling to hear.
Sorry.
Councillor Lee accepted.
I will accept it.
Thank you. If there are no other nominees, I'll put that to the vote. Moved by Councillor Ho, seconded by Councillor Abrazimade. All those in favour? Yes, Councillor Abrazimade.
The motion to appoint, so it's
Yes. Councillor Ho and Councillor Abrazimade. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
Sorry.
So the
Oh, good.
next item is 10.10, which is the Q1 business update, which was one of the items that went to the Audit and Risk Committee, but has been separated in the agenda. And we're being asked to merely approve this budget review. Merely.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I must have missed something. Sorry. Are we doing 7.5, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9 and 7.10? Sorry, I'm just might have missed something that you'd said.
Sorry? Sorry, what's happened?
No, because I want the...
Do you mean the item 7 that was on 10.8? They were not put up for us to make decisions. This was, I thought it was confusing because we were asked to note that there were additional opportunities, but we haven't been asked to make a decision. So I found that confusing, so I just thought we'd ignore it because it was not helpful. But what it does highlight is that there are more positions to be shared, but we haven't got a report that suggests we do that yet. And so we don't know the terms, we don't know the periodicity, we don't know the number of times they meet, and we haven't got the terms of reference. So I don't think it's fair to vote on that. Yep. I apologise for not explaining that. So now we're on to 10.10, which is the Q1 business update. This unfortunately went through the committee, the ARC committee, without a member of council present, but all the documents have been forwarded to us. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Couros. As printed, all those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. 10.11, which is the award of a contract for a job that appears to be long overdue, which is the stormwater data survey. 10.11. Councillor Ho? Can you switch your microphone on? I can't hear. Sorry.
Sorry, I just got some questions to ask about 10.10, the quarter one financial report.
Well, we have moved on, unfortunately. Sorry. I'm sorry. Can you follow up after the meeting with your question? And we'll get an answer. 10.11. Award of contract, moved by Councillor Abrazimade, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour, unless there's a discussion on it? No? Moved. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. And now we've got the confidential orders review, which is 10.12. I know that we're anxious to reduce the number of confidential items, and you'll be relieved to see that 34 orders have been released, but there is still a substantial number and it's being whittled down. Are you moving as printed, Councillor?
Lord Mayor, I would like to propose an amendment, and the words are coming to me as I speak. It is a fourth point, and I would ask that we ask the administration to seek advice, external advice, about the basis on which decisions are made to seek confidentiality orders, with a view to formulating a new policy which is disposed towards disclosure. I'll repeat that. I'm happy. Well, look, I'm happy. Look, I'm quite prepared to accept any suggestion on this. I would be happy to accept the advice of the Local Government Association or the Minister. Let me just complete the wording for the Secretariat. Asks the administration to commission an independent review to be conducted by the Local Government Association. Lord Mayor, are you proposing? Or the Minister? Yes, that's fine. To be conducted by the Local Government Association into the basis.
Sorry, the Ombudsman has actually done reports on this, and he did his last report, I think, 2015 or something. So it could be just an update, and it was a really comprehensive report.
Yes. Well, Lord Mayor, look, I would expect if you invited the Local Government Association to review this, they would refer to the most recent advice from the Ombudsman. It would be appropriate, I think, for them to do so. So I'm just asking independent review conducted by the Local Government Association to consider the basis or criteria on which the administration proposes confidentiality orders. I'm seeking for a review of the way in which we interpret the legislation.
Yes, okay. Is that clear? Is it seconded?
Yep, that's pretty much fine, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. Proposes confidentiality orders to the elected body.
Snape? So would you like to speak to it further, Councillor Martin?
Yes, look, it doesn't require a great deal of explanation, Lord Mayor. I understand that as a capital city council, many matters come to us for consideration that require confidentiality. I know that the state government particularly requests confidentiality in all of its dealings with the City of Adelaide. I understand also that some of our commercial partners request confidentiality whenever they're dealing with the City of Adelaide. However, I am mindful, and it is a matter of much public discussion, that this council has in excess of 600 confidentiality orders that remain in force, many of them dating back almost a generation to 2004. And therefore, I'm asking for a review to determine whether the application of those orders is appropriately sought in the first place, whether it represents the intention of the legislation in the view of the reviewer, and whether in fact there is a means by which the council could consider making some of those decisions which it currently considers in confidence in public. It is just a safety check, and I think a council which has 600 confidentiality orders in place dating back to 2004 ought to ask the question, are we going about this the right way? Should we... I'm happy for an independent review. I'm interested particularly for someone who is prepared to review this and consider our actions and the legislation and the actions of other councils as well. I think it's a particularly important thing for us to do. It is something about which this council is often taken to task, and I think if we do that check, if the recommendations are that we need to modify the approach, then I'm sure the administration would embrace that. If the check says everything's hunky-dory, then I'll be delighted, and so will every other elected member.
So people are worried about this. I think cabinet confidence only lasts for 10 years. So our period of confidentiality exceeds cabinet, which is extraordinary.
It does seem lengthy, Lord Mayor.
So that is seconded by Councillor Smith. Do you wish to speak to this, or should we put it to the vote?
I'm good. I'm reserved my right.
Your Worship, I have a question. I don't understand the motion because the confidentiality order is made subject to Section 90. The administration presumably has sought legal advice, has internal governance that complies with the legislation. This review will say that you can make the order in line with the legislation. Is there another outcome that I'm missing? Because they'll say that through the CEO, what variance to your current procedures would this make?
Will respond.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor. My understanding of the Deputy Lord Mayor's amendment is that he's asking for an independent assessment of the approach that we take as an administration when we decide either to have a confidentiality order, release a confidentiality order, and then review the process by which we're considering it. I don't think Deputy Lord Mayor is asking us to review the legislation itself, because obviously that's impractical. It's more around the assessment process and do we have proper, I assume, processes and procedures in place that enables us to reach the conclusion that we as an administration resolve and recommend to Council.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up then? The investigation won't be reviewing any decisions, well, through of your interpretation, the administration's interpretation, the motion is that the review won't consider any of the 600 or so items or the decision whether to make it public or not. It will consider the policies and procedures that the council currently has in place in terms of making those decisions.
I think that's what the intention was.
Okay, all right.
A question for the administration. All of the items that come in confidence, are they, you have a recommendation in which why you believe that it should be heard in confidence? The decision of the confidentiality in the end lies with whom? Is it completely with administration or is it completely with council?
Thank you. Through the presiding member. Obviously, we make a recommendation based on an assessment as an administration, but it is the council that does resolve whether to consider an item in confidence or not.
Thank you, CEO. So I rise not in support of this amendment. I feel as if we're looking at we're looking for something that's not even there, because at the end of the day, the decision is based with council. Whether the matter is heard in confidence or not, it's our decision.
And the recommendation that's brought forward by administration is a recommendation that they receive legal advice as to why the matter should be heard in confidence. At the end of the day, it is council decision. So to go ahead and to do a review based on which I don't even understand what he's trying to find, but you know, at the end of the day, it's going to come back to us, councillors, that make this decision.
We're being asked to review our
The quality of the decision making in the end is what administration give to us. In the end, it's up to the council to decide whether that decision there is good enough. So in the end, it still lies with the council, as I understand.
Thank you through the chair, and I think what would be helpful, I understand from what I've heard tonight, is that once that review has been undertaken, I'd hope we could then use the findings of that to go back over the 600 and probably do a reassessment of some of that. I think that's where Councillor Martin is looking for a value add.
Yeah, just a question though, like, your Lord Mayor. I mean, I'd just like to ask the CEO what kind of cost will be involved and whether or not like our ratepayers is happy to pay for it.
Well, I think there would be a cost. There always is, whatever you do. And I think the questions and motions on notice have consumed 70 odd hours of administration time, so everything has a cost. We're a large organisation. To recognise that if we're doing self-assessment, quality control, benchmarking, all work to assess our performance is more than
Please ask what is the cost? Yeah. What is the cost?
Well, I can't tell you the cost before we Through the Lord Mayor, I'm very much in support of this because I must admit I went out on a platform to support, to actually really push this council in evaluating their performance. And so this is just part of that. And this is just a normal process of any council or any board. And when I actually read the Ombudsman report, it was astounding how many councils actually thought that they were actually doing the right thing. And there was a whole lot of discoveries that really changed how people approached this. So I actually think that this is a very good motion, and I certainly would support it.
Can I request maybe a change of wording? Consider the basis. I'm just asking if there's going to be a change of... Can there be a change of wording, like consider the basis of the criteria, but consider the performance on which the current... Yeah, I don't feel that this amendment is very clear.
Sorry, which change are you suggesting?
Consider the basis of the criteria. Could we say consider the performance on which, council policies, or they adhere to council policies, or something that makes it more clearer?
Councillor Martin?
Look, Lord Mayor, I'm happy. I didn't realise this would be so controversial. I haven't even used the words climate change. But look, I'm happy to amend it so that the words current policy are included. It is the criteria particularly that I'm concerned about. So if it were to say the criteria or current council policy, including the criteria on which the administration proposed confidentiality orders, I'm happy with that. And that will go some way, I think, to helping Councillor Kouros. It addresses her concern about policy, and Councillor Davis as well, I think.
Yeah, I just don't get yeah.
Well,
might have made a landing here, but can you just tidy up the words?
Yeah, sure. So consider the current policy of council, including the criteria, including the criteria, on which the administration proposes confidentiality orders.
Recommends?
Can we say?
Rather than proposes, recommends.
Well, proposes is what they are, proposals in the report. Well, recommendations, proposals, but they come in other forms as well.
Yeah.
Yep. But, you know, look, I'm happy with that. I think it covers...
It should be on. We've got the clarity on which the administration proposes confidentiality.
Correct.
Would that be acceptable to everyone? So
Review.
the third amendment?
Consider the current
Councillor
policy.
Couros, can I suggest that we might have made a landing on this and moved this? Well, I think it's much more clearer.
Yeah.
I think it is clearer.
Yeah, no, look, I thank Councillor Couros for her improvement to the proposal.
Councillor Snape was happy to incorporate.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion then. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. That's passed. So, fortuitously, the next item will be, after the mandatory induction programme, we'll be moving on to exclude the public. So we'll be exercising that decision-making shortly. But in the meantime, we have just a report on our mandatory training and induction programme, and we're just being asked to note the report. Councillor Ho, thank you, moved. Councillor Abrazimade, seconded. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now, item 11, and we're actually being asked to exclude the public for 2 items. Each item requires a motion to exclude the public, and we might have some debate on that item, but we won't have debate on the facts themselves once we've in front of the public. So can I have a mover and a seconder for a motion to exclude the public for item 12.1, which is a confidential Audit and Risk Committee report from the 28th of October? Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Siebentrit. Is there any debate on that? If not, I'll move it. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. The second item for exclusion is the SA Citizen of the Year nominations. And the reason this is confidential is that it identifies individuals. Sorry? We're going to move another exclusion motion so that then we can debate them both, because these exclusion motions have to be debated in public before we move on to the item. Otherwise, the public will be coming in and out multiple times. So I'm now asking if someone will move an exclusion for the second item, which is will be 13.1. Moved by Councillor Couros, seconded by Councillor Ho. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. So now we have to do some procedural matters. We have to switch off the live streaming. And when we are sure that's occurred, we have to ask the members of the public also to leave. And Is it okay if we carry on?
Councillor Davis, it was part of the decision that you carried.
Sorry, the next item is 14, Lord Mayor's report. This is our second council meeting of the 22-26 term. The formalities relating to the recent council election have now been formalised following last Wednesday's 7th of December customary courtesy call on the Governor, in line with that made by Governor Gawler in 1840. The Council have now completed around 25 hours of mandatory training, workshops and briefings. We've visited a range of sites in the city and attended the London Road Depot for a financial briefing, and will need to work on the budget planning shortly. Following 2 sessions about planning, we'll work towards a consolidated submission to the PDI review and still seek additional time for this to allow all members to have input and understanding of the issues at play. We also need to have input into the state's 30-year plan. In civic business, I had the pleasure on 29th of November of hosting my first civic event this term to celebrate the Adelaide Strikers' victory in the Women's Big Bash League Championship. It's their first grand final win, and it was a particular joy for me to host a group of sports women. Our second event was hosted by the Deputy Lord Mayor on the 1st of December for the TAFE Awards, and I thank him for his support. We've had 2 diplomatic visits. On the 6th of December, I met with the Austrian Ambassador, Wolfgang Strohmeyer, and discussed focus areas for collaboration between South Australia and Austria, including green tech, waste management, the circular economy and battery technology. The following day, I had afternoon tea with the Australian High Commissioner to Malaysia, Dr. Justin Lee, and we discussed the upcoming 50th anniversary of the Adelaide-Penang sister city relationship, which will occur in December 2023. Subsequently, we spent some time in the Colonel Light Room discussing our light collection there and our watercolours from the city archives. With the test match about to start, we also focused on Colonel Light's chain, which is a measure used by surveyors and, incidentally, the same length as a cricket pitch. On Sunday the 11th, I attended with several other councillors the Sea-Link Carols by Candlelight. After 2 years of COVID disruptions and despite some rain, there was palpable joy and the Christmas spirit was evident throughout the entire day and evening. I'd also like to acknowledge a sad event, which was the recent death of Roger Rouse. He died peacefully in Salisbury after a short illness on the 5th of December, aged 82. He served the community of the City of Adelaide as a councillor and alderman between 1985 and 2000, and was identified as a staunch supporter of the southwest corner of the city, which was then designated Grey Ward. Over the years, he served on every single committee of council, but was especially active on the Penang Sister Cities Committee, and visited Georgetown many times, both officially and privately. More recently, he was the city's Southwest Neighbourhood Watch Coordinator, personally publishing and distributing the monthly newsletter. After cremation, his ashes will be interred with the family members in Broken Hill. A small gathering of his friends and former colleagues will meet in the Lord Mayor's chamber on the afternoon of the 15th of December to commemorate his life and his work for the council. On a somewhat brighter note, I hope that all council members have a joyful Christmas. It really is a time to refresh, recharge and renew. I wish our staff a happy Christmas and acknowledge the extraordinary commitment our employees have shown during 2022. So many of particularly our frontline and essential workers have made sacrifices during the challenging COVID years. I thank them. To our residents, business owners and ratepayers, I extend our warm regards and best wishes for Christmas and the coming new year. Thank you. Will someone move my report? Moved by Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Giles. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to councillors' reports. I don't know if we have any. No, if not, we'll move on to questions on notice. And we have 3 questions on notice, 6.1 to 6.3. You have the answers on your desks, I understand. So we note those?
No, we just would leave it the meeting, we'll take it as read.
So with the leave of the meeting, may we take those as read? Show of hands? Unanimous, thank you. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Ho, since I moved so fast, did you have a question on that matter? I apologise. Motions on notice, 18.1. Councillor Kouros.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I haven't got my proper glasses on today, so I'm trying to read it with ease. So forgive me if I keep taking them off and on. I would take it. Is it okay to take the motion as read?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Would you like to sum up then if there's no debate on it?
Well, I'm just basically looking for a seconder, I think.
Seconder? Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Basically, for the new councillors, we, back in 2018, I believe it was, or 19, Councillor Martin brought in a motion for us to begin master planning. And here we are, we're still, we're almost there, we're getting there, but we're just trying to get it over the line to actually putting it in our budget. So I have requested for noting the decision, so you are all aware that we do have a decision on the concept master plans for Melbourne Street and Harney Street, and that we have further concept plans for Hutt Street, Melbourne Street and Harney Street. Very important for our community. They're really looking forward to having these streets planned out, and especially in, I know for a fact, in North Adelaide. So I'm requesting for administration to provide council with a briefing so we can have an update on that, and for further councillors to be aware, and I'm putting a timeline in that to be by March 2023 in preparation for the budget that we will be discussing at length. Thank you.
So I think this is quite straightforward and will come in before we finalise our budget for the coming year and the years ahead. So Councillor Martin, do you have anything to add?
Look, Lord Mayor, I couldn't resist. It is a parochial matter. Can I just say I'm in furious agreement with Councillor Kouros. And I particularly want to emphasise how important these master plans are, not only for our residents but for our traders and for the people with whom they do business. It has been many years since there has been any upgrade of the public realm in either O'Connell or Melbourne Streets or Hutt Street. In fact, the last upgrade in O'Connell Street, I was a young man, and so that was a very, very long time ago.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
I would. It was a very long time ago. Nevertheless, the intention of Councillor Kouros here is for the matter to be put on the agenda for the budget process. And if I can go a step further and suggest that it would be extraordinarily helpful if during the discussion of these matters at a workshop or a presentation from the administration, if we could talk about the amount of dollars that the city is willing to allocate over whatever period to this project. Because one of the things that has constrained us is that nobody has talked about how much it will cost. And therefore, we cannot really talk about what kind of upgrade there will be. If you don't know the cost, you can't really plan effectively about what it is that you are wanting to do. And so I'm asking the administration also if when we get to the point of discussing this, we can talk about the dollars that are required and the kind of commitment that would be required from Council, and ideally over what period as part of the budget process.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll take it as read. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. For those that don't know North Adelaide and don't know Dunn Street Car Park, it's just off Melbourne Street. It's a very loved car park and it's very valued. So it was identified in the strategic property review as an asset that we might potentially want to look at selling, because it is a free car park and it's not performing well, but to the community it does perform well even though it is free. And I had a motion to ensure that council, it remains as part of an asset, and that we look at improving it and taking it out, hopefully out to an EOI if possible, but obviously it's subject to a report that I would like administration to bring in prior to June 2023, advising council of the progress to date. So it is not a matter, council has agreed in last term that it's not an asset that we'd like to sell, but an asset that we'd like to improve and work better for the community, and not to lose the free car park that it has for the precinct at the moment. Thank you.
So would your seconder like to comment on this?
Just briefly to commend Councillor Kouros for having this car park on her focus for quite some time. She has been on a mission, so I do wholeheartedly support this motion and commend it to the Chamber.
Thank you. So, unless there's any contrary view, Councillor Elliott, were you wishing to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I don't think my comments will be unsurprising to many of those in the Chamber, considering my background. My issue with this motion is actually more to do with the point 2, which is to ensure future developments retain or increase the amount of parking on site. I believe that this kind of goes against the point of the review, which is to actually investigate all options in terms of how the asset is managed, rather than to have council presupposing or predetermining the outcome of the review. I also believe that if it is an underperforming asset, then there is clearly scope for it to be altered rather than increased. I certainly would also not support the expansion of that car park or the increase in the amount of car parks in that space, considering the amount of tree cover that site currently has. I was able to count about 16 trees on that site. Considering that we are also in a climate crisis, I do not think that we should be removing any of those trees just to cram in more cars into an underused car park. Thank you.
And there's just a slight complication there, Councillor, because part 1 and 2 is actually a former motion. And all we're being asked to do is to prepare a report next year about progress. So is that at the time when you might argue or discuss?
So I might need
Does
further
that make
clarification
sense?
on your point. Yes, I understand that, and my issue relies in the fact with 1.2. No, the report is fine. I'm happy to receive the report. I just don't think that council should be predetermining the outcomes of the review by saying that the car park or the asset should have a greater number of car parks or no reduction.
Through you, Lord Mayor, that is actually a decision of council. So that council, and then part 1 and 2, it was passed by the previous council. So that is a decision of council which you can't debate right now. If you would like to change that in any way, shape or form, that would have to come back as a rescission motion to a separate meeting of council. So all we're debating now is that you're noting that that is the decision of council, and that we're requesting a report to June 2023. So you're not debating the previous decision of council.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to move. I know it's very difficult acoustics. So can we move the motion, Councillor Kouros's motion, as printed? We're just voting now. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Did someone vote against it? Division?
Council members, the division has been called on the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. So,
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I seek a seconder in regards to this motion for 18.3. Huh? I'm moving the motion.
As on the screen?
Moving the motion as per on the screen, as per the amendments requested by the Lord Mayor.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm just being told we should seek leave of the meeting to vary your motion because it was put on notice. So I think that will be quite straightforward. So, show of hands, all those in favour? That's carried, thank you. So, Councillor, please continue. And a seconder, Councillor Abrazimade, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is just a straightforward motion, and we all love Christmas. Christmas is a feel-good time of year, but it also to some traders and businesses in hospitality, retail businesses. Christmas is a time of the year where it is the most economical, viable time for them to increase their sales. In order to support them, I would love administration to provide a report in a strategy that we can implement for boosting what we do in the city for Christmas. We've done a great job this year. In the past, we've always been a bit mixed match to what happens in the mall to what happens in the other precincts, and somehow we've got sort of the same feel happening in the main streets to what's happening in the mall. But what I'm wanting to do is actually really lift that, really boost that, and even create it, even going down to the path of the strategy that it becomes a tourist attraction. I'd love to be able to work with our subsidiaries, with AIDA, with ACMA, to formulate a consistent Christmas strategy that will service us as a capital city, because we are a capital city and we do great things. We do great things for the community, and I'm not taking that away, and that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is boosting it in a space where people can think of Adelaide, or the City of Adelaide, as a place where they'll go not only to do their shopping but also to have an experience. And we are a capital city, and I would love to be able to start really thinking about that as a strategy for a capital city and plan it out for the service to service us economically as a city.
I totally support this. The only thing is I get a little bit confused is who actually is who in the zoo, so to speak. So basically, request administration to review the Christmas festival and report to council. Is this not AIDA's role? And would we not actually request administration to perhaps ask them to actually do this review? I mean, I just, when I read the terms of reference, this sort of type of thing lives in their area.
I'll just seek clarification because it is confusing.
Thank you, and members, please do have a look at the online portal, which does have some information about the role that the Adelaide Economic Development Agency plays. The Christmas Festival is a City of Adelaide document and strategy, but obviously liaises and works closely with the Adelaide Economic Development Agency, whose remit is to market the whole of the city. So there would absolutely be work done in conjunction, but the actual document of the Christmas Festival is a City of Adelaide document.
Right.
The
Yes, I have a material conflict of interest in this matter. I'll be leaving the chamber.
What is the material?
It relates to my legal practice, and that the outcome of this motion could affect essentially my income.
I think it has to be a precise explanation.
I'm sorry, Councillor?
I'm sorry, Lord Mayor. I'm left wondering what the conflict is. I understood it had to be a precise explanation of the conflict, and I'm not sure.
I think it's up to the councillor to explain what his conflict is, not for me to interpret it. Have we got sufficient information for legal reasons for the conflict?
Through you, Lord Mayor, I think Councillor Davis declared a material conflict of interest because the legal firm that he's employed at could benefit from or not from the decision. I think that was his explanation, which I think is appropriate for the minutes.
And that's my question. Benefit from the decision to note these matters, or to request the Chief Executive write to the Electoral Commissioner, or to hold a briefing? Is Councillor Davis's firm conducting the briefing, or?
I think that councillor has made a decision that he has a conflict based on his legal practice, and whether he will benefit or have a disbenefit from the activity is unclear. But in any case, I think there will be quite a delay in EXA wishing to clarify the situation, because there's a legal process in place. So I think we record the material conflict declared by Councillor Davis, and we would ask Councillor Kouros to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Where to begin with this one? I guess the motion completely explains it. There were some reports in regards from the Electoral Commissioner on the radio that there was some or public statements made by him that there were some illegal practices had occurred within the City of Adelaide in the election. There was also some concerns that you had voiced on radio yourself as well, Lord Mayor, and we haven't received any feedback in regards to that. I understand that there is a process in place at the moment, and it is very concerning because I am getting a lot of questions from people, from members of the public and our ratepayers regarding the outcome and regarding the integrity and the transparency in regards to it. So in the practice of we're wanting to be a more transparent and more council, then I'm requesting for the CEO to write to the Electoral Commissioner of South Australia requesting a public briefing on the outcome of the investigation, and if there isn't an outcome at the present moment, what stages is it at? Because we have no understanding of anything about what is going on with this. And request the CEO holds a public briefing on how the City of Adelaide administers the supplementary role before the end of December. Now, I understand this time frame might be a little bit difficult, considering that we've got Christmas and we've had a lot of workshops and we've had a lot of training. So could I request, say, by January meeting? Would that be sufficient for the CEO? Could I amend that to put January?
Seek leave of the meeting to amend the motion. Moved by Councillor, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Although it's carried. It's procedural. Everyone agrees. Yeah.
So in order.
Agreement in the room.
Okay. So, do we show the hands? To accept the variation. Can we show hands? Lifting hands. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can I ask that date change?
I think that's lost.
The supplementary role to come to I'll ask a public briefing on how the City of Adelaide administers the supplementary role before the end of December. Administration have advised that end of December is not doable, and I've requested for that to change to end of January. That is when we have our next meeting.
I think the meeting has not given leave to amend, from my understanding of the hands. I think there were 4.
So we're leaving it to December?
I think we have to. Yes.
So, council members, this is not a vote on the motion. This is simply Councillor Couros asking to change the end of December. Oh, sorry, I'll stop myself. End of December to end of January. This is that seeks leave the meeting. Sorry, Councillor Couros seeks leave of the meeting to make that change to Part 5.
Apologies, Lord Mayor. I believe leave was seeking and leave was lost.
Excuse me, the Lord Mayor is actually explaining.
I think it's reasonable to ask for clarification. I'll just ask once more. Show hands if you are prepared to give leave. All those in favour of giving leave? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think there are 6 people giving leave. Against 4, that's carried. So, Councillor Couros, you have.
Should I say 2023 on there? Would that help?
That is a great idea. And we'll delete December. We'll delete December. Thank you, Councillor. Would you proceed?
So I'm sensing, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I'm sensing that this motion may not be agreeable to some, but what I'm asking is for the processes that they will use to validate the enrolments and whether those that apply to be on the supplementary roll were contacted by the City of Adelaide. So what I'm basically asking for is a transparent way for the public to understand how the voting roll was conducted. And it's very simple, and it shouldn't be very complicated, because I think our system here is very unique to how people registered to be on the roll, and I think people don't understand it. It's very complex for people. They didn't understand all the different forms. They didn't know that some didn't even know they had to register. So maybe if we can come forward with more of an explanation in regards to how all of this was conducted, so we can be more transparent to our ratepayers in regards to how our role is conducted.
Yeah. Councillor Giles.
I'd like to speak against the motion. Look, I think this is very dangerous territory for a council to enter into. We have an electoral commission in South Australia. We've got a highly regarded electoral system in the world where we separate out statutory bodies that are responsible for the conducting of elections from those who are involved in the elections. And this motion, in my view, goes too closely to putting those two things together. It's really crucial that we let the Electoral Commissioner undertake his duties in terms of evaluating what happened in that election, or whether there's anything to investigate. And I understand now that there's also a legal challenge that he'll be dealing with that seemingly involves some people sitting in the room. And so it's totally inappropriate, in my view, to have a public discussion about that election in any way until the Electoral Commission has come out with their report, and that report will be an independent report following a thorough investigation as per the Electoral Act.
Look, I agree with the concept of this motion and where Councillor Couros is heading. I absolutely agree with Councillor Giles. I trust the Electoral Commission. They're doing this review. We should allow them to do this review. We should wait until the outcome of the review, and perhaps we have then questions to put to the Electoral Commission. So I won't be supporting this motion as is, but I would support something around what is the status, when are we likely to get some sort of determination, and then I think we could address it at that point in time. But for all the reasons that Councillor Giles said is the reason why I won't support this.
Lord Mayor, I'd like to commend Councillor Kouros for raising this issue. It's obviously raising a lot of debate. I know one of my platforms is around restoring trust in council decision-making, so something like this is really important. I do have an issue with the wording, though, around number 4. My understanding there is a legal process to follow, and I'm absolutely of the view that we need to follow that legal process. Once it's complete, we then look at what information can be publicly shared, and we take advice at that time. On item number 5, I think it is really important that voters in the city understand the process around the supplementary roll. So I think there's elements of number 5 that I'd support, although there's probably a question mark for me as to whether and I'd probably seek administration's advice on this, whether there's any aspects of 5 that for legal reasons we wouldn't be able to share. But in general, the idea of explaining a process, it's important that all voters understand that process.
So it is possible that we could take the first 4 and 5 separately, but I'll ask Councillor Lee to speak first and then ask the CEO if number 5 is a response that she feels will not transgress the legal processes. I'll do that afterwards. Councillor.
Sure, Lord Mayor, councillors, I just want to point out an inconsistency. The motion correctly quoted that the Lord Mayor... that international students are not the only enrolled voters who have fallen victim of illegal activities. However, the recommendations from the administration says that they will write a letter to request an investigation centered around international students. So I just want to point out that inconsistency.
Thank you through the presiding member. I think part 5 is achievable without any concerns in relation to any legal processes that may or may not be currently underway.
So, Councillor Kouros, would you be happy if we took your motion in half? No. You want it in whole?
Because I'm asking for public on the outcome of the investigation. If there's no outcome, then we don't get a briefing.
Lord Mayor, look, I understand that Councillor Kouros is concerned, as her motion says, about the integrity and the transparency of the electoral system, and that's a legitimate concern and one that's shared by most of the people of the City of Adelaide. However, I have listened to the debate and the points that have been made by each of the speakers, and I too have some concerns now about voting in favour of this motion. I observe that the first 3 parts of the motion are already understood facts and probably don't require any further embellishment. But I am concerned about 4 and 5 in that I would not wish to be associated with anything that would compromise an investigation by electoral authorities of any irregularity. I think it's very dangerous to be playing in this area when there's a serious investigation underway involving police and the Electoral Office. I think they would be right in suggesting to us that we should just sit down, stay calm and let them complete their work. And on that basis, I won't support the motion in any shape or form.
So, Councillor, in the absence of your allowing the motion to be split, you might have to put the motion in its entirety. Would you like to close the debate and do that? Please,
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Nothing in this motion declares that the Electoral Commissioner has done anything wrong. There is nothing that represents that the Electoral Commissioner hasn't done his job incorrectly. There's nothing in here to represent that I think that he has done his job wrong. What I'm basically asking for the Electoral Commissioner is request a public briefing on the outcome of the investigation, not on the current investigation, not why it's currently underway, on the outcome of the investigation. So therefore, I'm not impending on any legal processes that are happening at the moment. I am not stepping on his toes in regards to the investigation that is happening at the moment. So if we are a council that is interested and are claiming to be a transparent and hold integrity, then we want to have that information firsthand for our ratepayers. Number 5, point 5, very clearly states it's about our processes. It's not about the Electoral Commissioner's process, it's about our processes. So if we're doing a review on our processes and regarding the way that we conduct our items in confidence, why can't we do a review on the way that we conduct our electoral role? I mean, I don't understand. We seem to be contradicting ourselves. It's only good for some things but not good for others. So it's a very simple motion. Number 5 is about our processes. Number 4 is about outcome of the investigation. Nothing more than that.
So thank you. We'll put the motion now. All those in favour? That's lost. Division's called.
All those in favour of the division, please stand, remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh, Councillor Ho and Councillor Couros.
Thank you. The division shows the vote was lost. So we'll move on to the next item, which is 18.5. Councillor Ho. Oh, I'm sorry. We ought to get Councillor Davis back. Sorry. Thank you. Councillor Ho.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as print, and I look for a seconder.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh, second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abrahimzadeh. Well, basically, I just like to give everyone background information about this motion. Indeed, it was a motion I moved back into April 2019 to ask the council to kind of like investigate whether or not we could have something like the International Ambassador Program, basically try to engage with our community members to promote Adelaide as the destination for living, working, and study. And the motion was supported by all the members at the time, and I spent over 6 months to work with one of the associate director on the program to provide all the frameworks and in terms of how we actually engage with our community and to, how to use their resource, use their connection to provide the support, provide the promotion for City of Adelaide. And the program was about to, just right before the program is about to launch, and unfortunately the associate director have tendered his resignation, and we move on with another staff to take it over. When we were doing all the framework at the time, and because originally in the motion we were basically just targeting the local Chinese community, and when we actually working out with the doing the framework at the time, we have said, yeah, we actually make it open to the general public. And at the time, I think in our first run of nomination to recruit the promoters, we have not just got the local Chinese, the Australian Chinese apply, but also we have applicants from Singapore, from Malaysia, from India as well. And if I'm not wrong, Councillor Lee was one of the promoters in our first round at the time. Unfortunately, soon after the program launch, we have COVID, and all our national borders closed. And over the last couple of years, no doubt we have seen the train tension have been rising up between the two countries. So the last 3 years, really the program have actually kind of put on hold. There's not much you can do. But what I try to achieve in this motion is basically ask the administration to review about this program, review its framework, review its outcome from the previous motion, and see if we are able to have something come out. Therefore, we can better engage with our the local community here to promote Adelaide as the destination for working, living, and study. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abrahimzadeh? You don't wish to speak? Councillor Siebentreut.
I'd just like to briefly speak in support of the councillor's motion. I think it's an excellent motion. I did note that the administration's Some of the feedback has been around the focus on Chinese community, and I think, as the council has mentioned, there are various other nationalities where we're developing economic and trade relationships with, so I'd encourage us to, in looking at this, to ensure that it is a broader assessment of different nationalities who might be attracted to the program, but I support the motion.
I'm a little worried about it being budget neutral. Life has taught me nothing's ever budget neutral. So, Councillor Lai.
If I may speak to the motion, before I do that, I declare my conflict of interest because I was a member of that program, and also I am the Vice President of Australia-China Business Council, which is a key stakeholder of the trial version. But my experience tells me that the program was good in theory, but lacked content, context, and a link to key stakeholders. I don't think it's a material conflict of interest, though. Yeah, right. My feeling is that the program was good in theory, but lacked content, context, and links to the key stakeholders. To date, the program actually delivered 2 information sessions to about 40 audience. And I would like to point out that AIDA, our very own agency, has its own Data for Launch program, which delivers similar information sessions to audience. And also Study Adelaide as a student ambassador program, also agent engagement program to facilitate inflow of international students. The state government has established a multicultural chamber of commerce to unleash the power of our multicultural community in support of business activities. And also the state government has the so-called SA Club with chapters in London, Adelaide, Shanghai, KL, Bangkok, Singapore, Mumbai, and Hong Kong to harness the state's international connections. And also there's a current study being carried out by the University of Adelaide titled Diaspora's Contribution to Economic, Social and Political Linkages Between Origin and Destination Countries, which will offer insights towards a more systematic and comprehensive program. All of the above resembles the effort of the International Promoters Program. And I want to point out that at one stage, the program raised unreasonable expectations in the community because it was unofficially broadcasted as the Adelaide City Ambassadors Program. The Council needs to take very extra caution to revitalise a program that had not been perceived as successful. However, the above does not diminish the merit of the program in theory. I believe that it can be fitted into a broader, more strategic and structured framework which will fully consider the Council's own objectives, resources and the effort of other tiers of government, business chambers and also the private sector. Councillors, I do believe that an alternative is to look into specific opportunities with our sister and friendly cities around the world, and the Council do own these relationships. So we need to lead on these relationships, and I think that's an opportunity to plan more strategically instead of crowding out a lot of the existing efforts. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I think that it was
I'm actually against it. I believe there is a better alternative which I can work with Councillor Ho on in rebuilding similar things in support of our sister city relationship, which can be more targeted.
Thank you. Councillor Kouros? No? Councillor Snape?
Yes, look, I think it's incredibly important to build our multicultural multicultural city, if I'm being honest, but I do share Councillor Lee's concerns about the effectiveness of this particular programme. So I will be supporting Councillor Lee's position and not supporting this motion, but encouraging Council to seek collaboration and working together to find alternative ways forward.
Councillor Stephen, I think you've already spoken.
Am I not permitted to speak again?
I don't think you can. I'm sorry.
A question then.
No,
question.
You can ask a question.
Okay, I'll ask a question then. Is there not a way for alternate options that Councillor Lee has identified to be included within an investigation of the opportunity for reactivating the Adelaide Promoter Program. Seems to me like we're all talking about the same thing. Surely it can be just rolled in as part of one.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor. The Adelaide Promoter Program was a discrete, purposeful program that was in relation to China, is my understanding from trying to cast my mind back. Councillor Lee's discussions talks to sister cities, to existing relationships, and a much broader landscape of work. I don't think I would feel comfortable taking all that and trying to squeeze it into an Adelaide Promoter Program that was quite different in intent. However, I'm happy to work alongside the councillors that are showing interest in this and to share the work that's been currently done. We are planning to bring sister cities back into the chamber. We have a resolution from the previous council around our international network, so that will be coming in February. So there will be an opportunity to consider the various ideas that have been shared in the chamber tonight.
Through the Lord Mayor, sorry, could we just, rejig the actual motion, investigate the opportunity for reactivating a program with the aim, or reactivating, or just investigating a program with the aim to engage members, because all of that is good. Investigations to consider the program that would aim to, budget neutral. I mean, I really support this. I just think that, okay, if the Adelaide, I don't know if we've got any stats on the Adelaide Promoter Program and how successful it was or how successful it wasn't, and where it should live. And I mean, I think something like this should live in AIDA or, in one of our agencies. But at the end of the day, we could actually just do it very broadly and still keep... Oh, sorry. Yeah, I am.
So I think we should either have an amendment that is not a negative, or we should ask Councillor Ho if he wants to change the wording, and failing that, we vote against it if we don't like it. So
can I raise a question?
A question only, you've spoken.
Would Councillor Ho be interested in joining me to develop the sister city program together?
It's not about sister cities. I think that because we're straying off into multiple directions, we should vote on the motion, and if we don't support it, we can come up with another idea about sister cities. I'm sorry to push you. Councillor Davis.
May I speak to the motion?
Put the motion?
No, may I speak to the motion?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Look, I have very little information about what the Adelaide Promoter Program is and why it ended and what its outcomes were and what it sought to achieve. I note that the interest is in promoting Adelaide to China, right? And potentially that would cause some controversy or not. So what I think I would like, and I agree with the motion, which is to ask for a report to come back to Council so that we can consider what this program was. It doesn't mean we're adopting it. It means that we're considering a past program that has been effective, or potentially been effective. We can actually consider its purpose and its outcomes. From there, as a council, if we'd like to expand or change the aims of that, and then have a further discussion, I think that this report will at least give us a point back in 2020 when this council originally embarked upon that with that objective. So as a starting point, this is simply asking for a report. I'm actually very mindful of the administration's time in preparing reports such as this, but my understanding would be that all of this information would be readily available. Essentially what Councillor Ho is asking for is for the council to consider what options there are to continue the program or really just present what's previously been done. So I'm not committing to the Adelaide Promoter program. I don't really know what it is. I don't know whether it's worthwhile. And I believe that a report early next year would assist me to make that decision, and then we as a council can consider other opportunities to advance that line.
I do, Lord Mayor. I do want to support the motion because in a city that has suffered from COVID, a city that's trying to recover from COVID, if we can look at ways that we can get people to live, invest and study and visit the city, hey, I'll look at anything. I don't know about this program, just as what Councillor Davis has said, but you know, if administration can draw on a report to tell us what the program was about, to give us ideas in regards to what we could do better with it, or maybe not, I don't know. But if this is not about sister cities, I did not get it, I didn't understand it that way. I understood it as a process of reactivating a model that we could bring in for what we want to do is support the city, and we want to have people to live, invest, study and visit. This is what we are about as a council, and if we can't look towards programs that could have some success and investigate them, then what's the point?
Let us speak to it. Well, thank you for all the debates, and indeed, like, I actually echo like what Councillor Davis said. I mean, indeed, to a lot of new members, and indeed, even for the members who were sitting in the chamber in last term of council, you might have very little information about the program itself. All right, because really the program only had 2 information sessions, and then it almost shut down all that because of COVID. We are unable to host any events or gatherings for a long period of time. Because at the time when we actually I was working with admin in terms of how to do the framework of the program, and one of the very important sessions was how we actually engage our local communities to bring more events back to use, like say, facilities like in town hall. Hence, like we generate. On one hand, we are more engaged with our local community. On the other hand, we actually generate revenue to the city of Adelaide as well. Because like when we have like delegations coming from either any other states or overseas, we would like to bring them in to the city rather than leave it to other councils. Certainly not Burnside Council. All right. So that was the original plan or the goals of the program, not just like do it, not just say, oh, deal with like sister city relationship or just focus on the trade and investment. It is actually not just about that kind of thing. It is about music, about arts, about other activities as well. So I still encourage people to, and besides, at the end of the day, the motion talks about investigate, basically like, the administration will need to bring back us a report early next year. Hence, like all of you can make this decision at the time to decide it whether or not we should reactivate the program or we just let it go and do something else. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So the motion now, those in favour?
Division.
Council members, the division has been called on the motion. All those in favour, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh, Councillor Ho, Councillor Kouros, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentritt, Councillor Snape, Councillor Davis, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
I'll have a motion as read and seek a seconder, please. Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I will keep it brief. I think this is a pretty straightforward motion. Our parklands are precious. They are both the heart and the lungs of our city. It's had a bit of a rough time of late with multiple developments happening across the board. Yes, this council has already moved a motion quite recently. The previous council moved a motion quite recently opposing the Women and Children's Hospital. But this is a new council. We're all sitting here with a new mandate. So I think it's important to use our voices to make it clear where we stand on the matter. And that covers part 2. But part 3 of the motion is actually about looking forward as well and wanting to extend a hand to the state government to actually try and work together to find parts of what I'm calling in this motion built form, so concrete, asphalt, things like that, that can be actually removed and rehabilitated back into parklands. I'm certainly not against sports fields, playgrounds, footpaths, lighting, water fountains. That's all fantastic infrastructure that we need, and it's all part of the activation of parklands and should be actively encouraged. So yes, I seek your support with this motion. I think it's a no-brainer. It doesn't deviate from a previous stance that many of us have taken in this chamber. And yes, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Yes, I had a question of the administration. In point 3, seek support from the state government for long-term strategy to remove the built form. What will the administration, through you, Your Worship, make of point 3? What will the administration do, and how will they carry out point 3?
I don't know what the administration will do, but I would suggest that through the Parklands Authority, they have a long-term plan. Previously, the 1999 Parklands Management Plan that was produced by this council had an agenda of places to rehabilitate and turn back to parklands. And even the previous Labor government had an agenda as well that included the Reed building that's now become the Botanic High. It included the SA water site that was returned by the Rand government. And there was even in the old days a suggestion that there was much more that should be removed, and it was staged over many years. We've forgotten that agenda, and I think it's quite reasonable that we should identify sites to be returned to parklands. I have actually recently noticed that in reading some of the agenda papers about funding, there seems to be discussion about extending and building larger sports facilities. And whilst I'm very supportive of sports facilities, when I was on council we built the stables in Victoria Park. There does seem to be a move from what you might call a modest changing room into a multi-purpose venue for hire, and sometimes they're multi-storey buildings. So I think that we've moved away from that sense that we're going to reclaim parklands to actually believing on a broad scale that we might actually be building on the parklands.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if that's an answer.
No, it's not, Your Worship. I rather, so the Parklands Association is a separate entity, a statutory one from us. The authority, was that what you were referring to, the authority? Yeah, sorry, the authority is a separate entity from us. I was asking, what does point 3 direct the administration to do if the motion is successful?
That it would be a joint strategy that came out of the Parklands Authority, which would be a long-term strategy. That was my intent, sorry.
Can we then make that clear with the motion then? I'd say that that the council right to, or work with the Parklands Authority to develop. Yeah, which is not what it says.
Yes, part 4 and part 5 on the comment suggests that the Parklands Authority is a principal advisor of both the City of Adelaide and the state government. So that was the intent of how the administration would move this forward, I think.
Okay, so they won't work with the state government, they'll work with the authority, and then the authority is then envisaged to work with the state government.
As I understand, item 4 is that the administration's response was the Parklands Authority is the principal advisor to both the City of Adelaide and the state government on the protection, management, enhancement and promotion of the Adelaide parklands. But I think that's just background information. Yes. I'm open to any amendments, but...
No, I'm just asking the administration how they would...
Yeah. Thank you, through the Lord Mayor. The other step that we would take as an administration is work via the Capital City Committee as the appropriate state government entity that drives connected, joined-up strategy between the City of Adelaide and state government. So if you look at dot point 5, I think that's the appropriate forum. So I would work with the new members of the Capital City Committee to work up how we might approach that back at Capital City Committee.
Lord Mayor, just a question. I'm not certain whether the mover intends that all built form, including change rooms, toilets, storage facilities for tractors and lawnmowers, should be removed, or whether we're talking about surf clubs like the Cricket SA construction or the Prince Alfred College so-called...
Sorry, I'm happy to clarify that it's my intention for council and state government to work to find the occasional location that can be returned to parkland, not that we go around and knock down every single thing that exists in the parks and turn it over to parkland. I'm happy to accept an amendment to that point if it's for clarification.
Yes, look, if it is the mover's intention to work with the state government for a long-term strategy to identify buildings or built form which can be removed from the parklands, that would suit me, because I'm very concerned that there is a requirement for some built form on the parklands. If that doesn't do the trick, I'm happy to accept advice from any other member. But
But everything can be removed.
Okay, well, I'll be guided by the room, but may be removed. That's probably appropriate, yes. May be removed, and that then allows a debate about whether indeed that should happen.
Can I suggest something else, perhaps, that seeks support from the state government for a long-term strategy to consider opportunities to return current built form to parkland?
Yes. Well done, Henry. Council.
Strategy to identify built form within the park. To identify built form within the parklands, which could be restored to open space, or returned, or restored, or returned to open and public space.
You happy with that?
Yep.
So then it's not an amendment.
Variation.
Let's do it.
Councillor Snape, are you happy to have that incorporated?
As variation, yes.
Variation? As amendment. Councillor John? As amendment.
No. Oh, if we do it as an amendment, I get to speak twice.
Yeah, you do.
I'm just wondering if the mover will take it in parts, because in regards to the Women's and Children's Hospital, it's already legislated, it's already happening. They're not going to talk to us. It's already gone through Parliament. We've already tried numerous motions against the Women's and Children's Hospital on the parklands. We've done that in the past. It's done and dusted, but I'm happy to support number 3.
So, Councillor, would you be happy to take it in parts?
I will take it parts.
Okay, so let's move it in parts so that we can I use my right?
Councillor? Look, I totally agree with what Councillor Couros said, but in terms of the reality. But I think that when I was talking to people during the time when we were in the process of being elected to council and talking to residents and ratepayers in this city, what they wanted from our council sometimes was actually a voice that said out loud the things that they were thinking. So it's really important, I think, that we reiterate, in my view, that that we are opposed to the Women's and Children's Hospital being on Parklands, and as part of this, and not give the impression to people in the community that we've given up on that, and all the state government needs to do is to just sort of bang a bit of legislation through Parliament and we'll just shut up about it. I think it's really important part of the motion because it actually is a real thing that's happening right now, and also I always believe that it's not over till it's over, and we need to continue to argue that we're not in support of the new Women's and Children's Hospital being on the Parklands.
So Councillor Kouros, and then I think Councillor Davis is about to ask a question because he's already spoken.
No, Councillor Martin proposed a variation and I helped with wording. Surely an amendment wasn't accepted, and so proposing a variation isn't a motion.
Kouros is next.
That was very cute. Lord Mayor, this is a chamber where we make decisions, and we did have many motions in the past in regards to the Women's and Children's Hospital being on Parklands. And as much as our ratepayers would like to know that we're out there fighting for them, which we have been, unfortunately, it's passed. Nothing we're going to do today is going to change a conversation with the state government of moving the Women's and Children's Hospital. Sometimes our ratepayers just have to have taken the reality of that and that is happening. I don't want to go into war with the state government about I can't fathom, getting the Lord Mayor or the CEO to write a letter to the state government opposing our position. I know that's not what it's asking, but we're asking the chamber to do it. And this chamber, we're all as one, and we all should be knowledgeable and understanding that this has passed. This is going to happen, and to give our ratepayers hope that we can change anything, it's not going to happen. And so I would rather speak to my ratepayers with the truth. And the truth is that no matter what we do with this motion, no matter what happens, it's not going to change anything. And the state government are firm on their approach in regards to the Women's and Children's Hospital. Now, number 3, thankfully with Councillor Davis' amendments, is doable. That is something that we can have conversations about, and that is something that we can do. And I guess I'm just asking the council to, although we like to have feel-good motions, this is not going to achieve anything.
So I think we'll sum up as soon as Councillor Davis has spoken.
Yeah, look, I believe the debate on Parklands with regards to the Women's and Children's Hospital is work choices. It's dead and buried, and that is going ahead no matter what. I think everybody in this council chamber would agree that it would be put into Theberton. Potentially, in my view, it should go into Theberton at the end of Port Road, which would achieve every outcome and save what I think is what makes Adelaide unique and what makes Adelaide special. However, having spoken to ministers, particularly in the Labor and Liberal governments, one quite recently, the position the council takes on these matters is actually very, very important. So they will listen to the position on this. And that will determine how they interact with us when they come into consultation, and how we interact with them when we start talking about re-greening the site or our control of the parklands around the Women's and Children's Hospital. Now, I think that this, rather than, I understand the position that we could always continue to rebel and we could always continue to raise this as an issue, and quite notably I think that this would actually be printed in the Advertiser tomorrow if, for example, we renewed this fight to contest the Women's and Children's Hospital. I don't think that that's what we want. I think that that will take a seat away from our table. I think we do have the department who are willing to listen to us and confer with us. I absolutely agree that it should not be in the Parklands. However, we need to move forward with the state government in a productive manner, and we can demonstrate that by the motion tonight. So my suggestion would be that we agree with points 1 and 3. We are proposing to our residents a way forward that we can return Parklands to open and public space, and I believe that we should take we should fight a new fight and direct their efforts and their passion towards identifying current built form and returning that to open and public space rather than flogging a dead horse.
I'll sum up and I will keep it brief. I will take it in parts, and I do encourage everyone in the room to support all three parts. I respect the arguments being made in regards to part 2. However, I do agree with Councillor Giles. It is important for us to be a voice for the residents and the community. I think it is important. You know, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that the decision has been made, but we still can stand up and say, look, this is a position that we have taken. And we are a newly elected council. We have got a mandate to use that voice. Whether or not it accomplishes what we want in the world or not, we have still got a role to play in being a voice. So I do encourage you all to vote for part 2 as well. Thank you.
So with your agreement, we'll move part 1 and 3 together. Councillor, all those in favour of 1 and 3? That's carried unanimously. And now we'll move part 2.
Council members, a division has been called on part 2 of the motion. All those in favour, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentritt, Councillor Snape, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, before I move the motion as printed and seek a seconder, can I just ask a quick question, because depending on the answer that I get, I might withdraw the motion, if that's okay. Through you, is administration able to clarify the catering arrangements that have been in place for the past 3 or so years? Are they still ongoing now into the future?
Previously, and the cost of meals has gone down substantially. I was also told that the vast sum raised by a previous member of council and portrayed in the media was, let's best say, creative accounting, because as you realise, there was 1 council meeting per month. If there were 12 in a year, it would not be possible to have spent $30,000 on catering. It appears from discussion with the civic area that the $30,000 included the previous catering firm catering for every function around council activity, so that it was a gross overestimate and not reflective of the amount that each meal cost.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, can I just interrupt there? But the figures that we were given in regards to the catering were in conjunction with what they were spending last term of council, not the last term, but the previous term. So they were having meetings after every committee and after every council, and that's the figures that it was based on.
So, but it was for all the meetings?
Yeah, that's right. So they were having 2 council meetings.
I'm pointing out that it would not be possible in a monthly meeting system to have spent that amount.
Oh no, we're talking about the previous to the monthly meetings.
And so I understand now that it's possible to have a much cheaper meal. And the other issue that I've determined was that we were catering for over 20 people per head, and with only 12 council members. It's worth noting that the administration have meal allowances as well, so that there are 2 budget lines that could be used for food. I think there's certainly no need to have alcohol. In relation to the company, we have a contract with a provider, and they have an expectation that we will sometimes bring in special items, but I understand that we have a contract that will require us to use them. If we have a takeaway meal, we still have to have someone collect it, unpack it, serve it, and clean it up. And there is a cost in staffing that we can't overcome. So I think to help you to get the outcome you want, I think we should investigate the purchase and keep the cost down, but not prescribe it in your wording, because I think it's going to be difficult to comply with it, with the words as they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel quite strongly that we should not expect anyone to put a full day in at work, come here and have a biscuit. I think it's just too much.
Yes.
Today I've ordered dinner because it's a Christmas party meal, if you like, Christmas dinner. But we would take the advice of the council and the decision and order subsequently meals of a different kind.
Lord Mayor, if I can just maybe be clear on my question. The dinner arrangements that have been in place over the past 3 years, is that something that will continue, or is that something that will change given the catering contract that we have in place? So in the past, for the new members as well, we've been given a range of wraps, sandwiches and salads, a modest meal. So I wanted to see if that is still continuing, and if it is.
I think we can order whatever food we like, but it should not be top of the range. I think that's the issue. We don't need to have gourmet food, and we don't need to have a choice of 15 desserts. We could maybe have some fruit and cheese and to go with it.
100% agree. That's the reason why I brought the motion into the chamber.
I think that changing the catering to a more frugal style would be in keeping with people's expectations.
Yep.
But I would just ask that you investigate the purchase rather than prescribing it, in case we can't overcome the difficulties.
If Lord Mayor, if those dinner arrangements are ongoing, what we've had over the past 3 years, if they are ongoing, I'm happy to withdraw the motion. But I just wanted some clarification on that before I go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't know what was ordered before. Sorry. Wraps in perpetuity.
I don't want that either, and so that's why just to let you know my thinking behind this. I'm happy to withdraw this and work with administration in finding opportunities to work with local businesses. So then that actually does give us some variety, but also it goes to support local businesses in the process of feeding ourselves, which I think is fair.
I think that the company that has tendered for our work has done so at a reasonable rate, and there is a contractual issue that makes me a little uneasy if we're known as a contractor that signs for delivery of a service and then reneges on it. So, yes, please.
Thank you, through the Lord Mayor. The challenge when we did look at this previously was that a small local business requires certainty, and at this point Council still hasn't resolved whether you want to eat prior to meeting, break during Council meetings to eat, or eat at the end of your Council meetings. So it's quite challenging for a small local business to be able to provide a meal to Council under those conditions.
In that case, what I might do is I might vary the motion slightly to look at investigating options, and then from there we're actually able to we are able to be provided with some options and costings, and the Council can then make that decision.
Could we seek leave of the meeting just to amend the word? A variation? Show of hands? That's agreed, thank you. And there was a second of Councillor Ho, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Would you like to
I would, if investigate reference to purchase meals. Yep, okay. Given the questions back and forth and the conversation, I think the Chamber essentially got the gist of what we're trying to do. I do want to keep the dinners going because I believe that after Council meetings, it gives us an opportunity to debrief, sit down, chat, get to know one another, and I think that that's how relationships are are formed and strengthened. So I want to make sure that we do that over the next 4 years. But if I guess I was looking at a particular component in there to see whether if we were able to work with a local provider. But if the current contract doesn't allow us to do that, well, I'll let the investigation happen. I'll let the options come back to us, and we can look at it from there on. But perfect.
Thank you very much. I don't know if your seconder would like to speak, or shall we put it to the vote? In that case, if you're happy not to sum up, Councillor. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Noon, talking about... Oh, sorry, is it Councillor Giles? Oh, I'm sorry, 18.8, Councillor Giles, which is about AIDA. And seconded by Councillor Snape. I'm sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. I was going to make a pun about this being a bit of a meatier issue following the last one. But I won't. Look, this motion is something that I've been have been investigating as a citizen of the city for some time. It's a motion that actually looks at a major part of the way the council's operating at the moment, and calls for a review in order for us to properly investigate and evaluate whether or not the current structure and focus of AIDA is the right one at this time when the major priority is to build resilience and get small business back on track and supported post the COVID pandemic. So it's about the future of AIDA, and it's the motion is actually asking for a comprehensive independent review of AIDA. It does note that at the time, when we're in a COVID pandemic, it's absolutely crucial to just do what you can without very much structure at all around that, to just get things going, but we're not in that position anymore. AIDA is a subsidiary of council, and our subsidiaries have got their charters, and the AIDA charter is slightly different to some of the other charters, but the major difference between the subsidiary of AIDA to council and the others is that the amount of money that goes from the budget into AIDA if you include the Brundle Mall levy, it's around $11 million of the budget expenditure, which is a large amount of money. And so I think it's absolutely responsible for us to have a review of how that money is being spent and whether or not that money is being is actually meeting the objectives that the agency itself has set, but more importantly, is meeting the objectives of that part of our strategic plan, which talks about stronger economies and building strong economies in the city of Adelaide. It's also very confusing, I think, sometimes for people to know when you get like all these emails from different bits of council. What's council's role? What's state government's role? What's AIDA's role in terms of that function of supporting and building business confidence and strength in our business community? I think yesterday when Theo Maris was talking about the central market, is that run out of time? Does that mean? Can I just have an extension? Yeah. Sorry, it was my pun that took such a long time. Theo was talking about how it's absolutely crucial to look at the competition that's now forming in business around the city, and we're seeing these, really big flashy supermarkets all coming around the city, and we need to actually really get our head around how we more efficiently and more effectively, I think, pull together this strategy so that we're in collaboration with state governments and others in order to make this. To make the city thrive. So this is actually just calling for a review, an independent review from the agency itself, so that we can actually have someone who, with business and local government knowledge and experience, that can come in from the outside and have a look at largely whether or not its aid is being effective, whether it's actually accountable enough for us as a council, and also to see whether there's any duplication in bits of council and bits of state government and how we can all work together much more effectively. And also, for me, it's really important too that we provide an assessment of the return on investment of AIDA because of the large amount of money spent in the budget. So I'm asking council to support
I'll reserve my right.
I think, Lord Mayor, I think it's really important for councillors to get up and say whether they're in support of something, and I am in support of this. We have today talked about, as a council, what we would like to have reviews of. We talked about reviews of confidentiality, which was successful. We talked about reviews of the way we do our electoral, which wasn't successful, but we've got here a review on our AIDA, which is really important because, and I think from memory, when before we went into caretaker mode, we had AIDA, the chair and the managing director, come and speak to us as a council, and they advised us that they have been in operation for just over 2 years, and that they were going to conduct their own independent review of their board, which I think is fantastic, and I think it's a great way that we can be transparent in the way that the board is tracking. I think it's really important for people to know, and I know it's really hard for new councillors to understand the concept of AIDA. We talked about it in length in previous term of council, and we understood what their role is, and we understood what they are to bring to the council, and the board has allowed for them to be able to have robust discussions, to be able to inform us exactly what Theo Maris informed us what they do in regards to the competition for the market. What their job is for AIDA is competition in regards to the city. The $11 million that formulates as part of their budget was the existing budget that was within council, and it was just moved over to AIDA, and they haven't increased their budget. It was within council's budget anyway. So the fact that that $11 million, which already was in council's budget, transfers under AIDA, which is overlooked by a board, is a brilliant way for us to have economic strength review over our city. And so the fact that we are looking, this motion calls for review, absolutely welcome it. I'm sure they would. There is nothing to fear in this. I think it's going great, and I think maybe we might identify ways that they could do better, and that's what we're all about, trying to find ways in which we can do better, because this city is wanting to go forward.
So thank you, Councillor. Has anyone got a contrary view? Otherwise, it sounds as if we're in favour, and I'll put the motion to the vote. If there's no contrary view, do you want to sum up, Councillor Giles?
No.
Good, and they'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Martin. Oh, sorry, 18.9 is Councillor Noon and the William Veal tribute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I'm out of order, totally out of order.
Thank you.
Councillor Abrazimzee.
I met with some residents who were talking to me about... Sorry? Oh. Right.
Sorry, what's happening?
Who were talking... Yeah.
Please go on.
Who were talking... who spoke to me about the 60th anniversary of Veal Gardens in 2023. They also spoke about a current... one of the residents of U-City has actually a bust in their apartment, and they would like to donate it to the City of Adelaide and, install it in Veal Gardens to commemorate 60 years of Veal Gardens. And William Veal was actually a town clerk of City of Adelaide. So it just was a good story, and I thought we should actually be behind this. But the motion is requesting administration to prepare a report for council to investigate the process and cost of commissioning a bronze bust. So the bust apparently is already in existence, and when I read the administration's comment, they actually do say there is a bust, and I'm not sure if it's the same person that they're referring to. The person that has the bust in their apartment is the granddaughter of William Veal. And so I'm not sure if the bust that the administration is referring to is actually the granddaughter's. So I'm not sure about that, and administration might be able to shed some light on that. But basically, I thought it was a feel-good story, and it's great to commemorate what he actually did 60 years ago, and I thought it was good timing.
Should we seek a variation to prepare a report to council investigating opportunities to commemorate William Veal? Would that be that commissioning? Would you still want to commission? I'm a bit confused. Sorry.
It was about the bust, I must admit.
Do we want to commission another bust?
No, we don't want to commission another bust. We
want to prepare a report.
There might.
Installation.
Yes.
A commemorative bust of Mr. William Veal.
So the bust that I was advised of is not actually bronze, but apparently there seems to be a bronze bust. There seems to be two busts at the moment. So I'm not sure if it's the same bust or if there's two. But
installation of a commemorative item, a commemorative feature representing Mr. William Veal. That covers all eventualities.
I think the bust is at the basis of this. This. We got the bust, the bronze bust.
There's a bust already.
The bust exists.
The bust exists. What she's looking at.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that, Councillor?
Yes, I'm happy with that.
And your second is happy? Everyone's happy?
We're all happy.
That's carried, thank you. Councillor Martin, you've got a complicated series of words. Would you like to move your motion, Councillor 18.10? I'm sorry, I missed.
That's all right. Must I read the words?
I just think you might speak to it.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to speak to it. Look, Lord Mayor, as the motion title suggests, it is about the North Adelaide on-street parking trial, which was the culmination of probably one of the most heated periods in this council, where we were subjected to so many reports, so many consultants, so many deputations, and so many frustrations. It stemmed mainly from a long-standing view among residents and traders that the parking arrangements in North Adelaide are unsatisfactory. And they are unsatisfactory in many ways, not least because there are different criteria for people being able to park vehicles in the area. For instance, if you live in a property that was built in 1975 but it has no off-street parking, you're entitled to an on-street parking permit. If you live in a house next door that was built in 1980 that has no off-street parking, you are not entitled to an on-street permit, whereas your neighbour is. And so the process involved resolving what was a contentious issue, one that continues to this day. I've been talking to a ratepayer in recent weeks who is unwell, suffering both cancer and osteoporosis, and has no off-street car parking. Did have, but that property was sold by another party and he lost that space, and now is required to park on street but is unable to move the car because of his illness, and we are unable to accommodate him with a permit that would assist him. It is clearly a complex issue, one that involves, as Councillor Kouros showed me earlier today, a file that is probably the best part of 4 or 5 inches thick, full of reports and recommendations, which were ultimately adopted by the Hazy Council, but then in the previous council rescinded. And there are, unfortunately, many people who are aggrieved by that and who've asked that the matter be revisited. Now, elected members, I seriously considered whether it might be best just to come into the council and say, can we reinstate the North Adelaide parking trial? But I feel that it would be probably better, given that this trial had implications and could have implications for the whole of the city, for there to be a discussion at committee or some other forum at which you can inspect the documentation, the reports, have the administration take you through it, and then we may be in a position where I hope to be able to bring a motion to council that you may or may not support. This motion, therefore, is simply a request that you have the opportunity to hear all of the information and then make a decision about whether it is a matter that you want to take further.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I rise in support of this, and I probably can feel administration's eyes roll with this motion because we have talked about it so much. This is the folder in question in regards to the North Adelaide parking review. As Councillor Martin has stated, there are so many complex issues that in North Adelaide. Now, I don't live in the south, so I can't comment there, and I'm sure there's complex issues there, and central, etc. But in speaking in regards to North Adelaide, and when I was campaigning, there are still a lot of complex issues in regards to parking. But where I do disagree with Councillor Martin is the review what we implemented, in which I revoked last term of council. It didn't solve the problem. It actually created a bigger problem, and this is probably where we disagree. And we do agree that we need a review, but we disagree on what the outcome should be. I don't know, actual fact, what the outcome is, because, like I said, it is complex. There are people that live near medical centres that are inundated with people that take up all the on-street car parking. There are people that live near the hospital, there are people that live near the shops, and there are obviously then the other issues where one house is built in the 1900s and one's built in 1985, and there's different rules that apply to everybody. Sure, I welcome this review. I welcome having discussions. I spent many days with Vanessa Godden in regards to this matter. I feel as if I know it back to front. And I feel that we still haven't got to a solution, but I'm hoping this time round we can come to something that's palatable for most people. We're never going to please everybody, that is the rule, but like the Lord Mayor says, if you can get 80% of a win, then that's a good start.
I just had a quick question. Has there been community consultation done?
Many times.
Okay. Can the results of the community consultation be
yes.
presented as well?
Yes. That's the intention.
Well, there was, but it didn't work, and then,
I think that it requires another examination, and so unless anyone's opposed to the motion, I might have to put it out. Would you like to sum up, Councillor? We'll put the motion of those in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Martin again, that's strategic.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. We're on the home stretch. Yesterday, I read in Daily the story of the shrinking building, and the story went that the state's planning body has been advised to approve plans for a 6-storey data centre down from 11 stories on a former beach volleyball site in Frome Road. And the report went on that the government architect has criticised the new proposal and the underuse of the 1,800 or 1,600 square metre former beach volleyball court And the architect was also troubled too by the inadequate street front activation. Now, Lord Mayor, that was actually us, the City of Adelaide, which sold that block of land to an expression of interest. It was one of the properties identified by what was called the disposal of underperforming council strategic property asset sales. And we didn't, with that sale, curate what it is we actually wanted on that site. We simply put it out to an expression of interest. Now, we sold it to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder has determined that they will...
Was there a seconder? Sorry.
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Was the seconder? Yes, Councillor Elliott. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry for jumping the gun.
It's my fault. Sorry.
The highest bidder simply bought that beach volleyball site and developed it as they wanted and changed that development plan as they wanted. Now, I know there will be people who say, well, you know, that's the market. The market decided what would happen, and in any case, the council got a sum of money which it's put in the bank, or at least to our bottom line. But if we sell a land asset in this city, if we sell property that we own as the City of Adelaide, I like to think that we have a greater responsibility than simply getting a cash windfall and putting it in the bank or to our bottom line. I have a view that the City of Adelaide has a role in shaping the way in which our city looks, in shaping the uses that we want to see in different parts of the city. And so instead of expressions of interest, my view is that we ought to be thinking seriously about a better way of doing business. We should be, instead of asking developers to buy pieces of land, asking developers to buy into proposals that the City of Adelaide has for particular pieces of land. Now, we've sought expressions of interest on other matters, on other properties, which many of you will be aware of. We are asking for expressions of interest in regard to the old bus station, which is one of the most significant pieces of real estate remaining in the city. We are just asking for people to come forward with developer ideas and to give us a sum of money in return. We're doing it in the car park that was mentioned earlier in Dunn Street off Melbourne Street. We're asking for developers to say, how much will you give us? Whereas in all of those cases, I think we should be saying, as a council, may I have just a short extension, Lord Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. We should be asking, why can't we have something there that's going to add to the value of the city? Why can't we do something that is city shaping rather than just looking for a sale? And I'm also asking here in this motion that we pause on some other projects which are not sales but which are nevertheless significant. We have, as a council in the previous budget process, approved the construction for several $1 million of a North Adelaide mini golf project. We have done so without seeing a drawing, without seeing a mud map, without seeing a business plan, without actually having any kind of address about what it might be. And yet, we are about to embark on that expenditure as a council. We have also committed to the redevelopment of a lake in Rymall Park against the wishes of the community and for a cost which the administration identifies in your papers tonight.
Qualify that, because people are shaking their heads and I think it might be good to get clarification, Councillor. Would you just mind about whether we have a business case? Do we have a business case?
Thank you, through the Chair. No, we still don't have a business case for mini golf, and that will be presented to Council for consideration. We're still some way away due to changes at Ghana Yerta.
And the ornamental lake, do we have a business case?
Business case. Sorry, Tom, can you just clarify the Rymall? I'm not sure if there's a business.
Through you, Lord Mayor. We do have, it's not a business case, it's a capital works programme which was presented
so there is no
to both.
Business case?
Correct. No, a capital works programme presented in detail to the elected body and to the Catatilla who endorsed.
It's budgeted by the sound of it, but there is
Lord
not
Mayor,
a formal business case. Thank you, Councillor. I think we've clarified that.
Okay, thank you. If members care to turn to the QF1 report, they will find that the project is identified.
Didn't you ring the bell?
May I just finish, Lord Mayor? I'm wrapping up now. Okay. Thank you.
I'm just slightly confused by the motion and its outcome. Reading the administration comment, it seems that most of these processes have concluded and there are no further expressions of interest to come. Does the motion itself do anything, or is the administration, does it change the administration's behaviour in any way over the coming months, or is the administration, or has this issue already been resolved?
Thank you. Through the chair, I think there are a couple of things that I would say. One is absolutely would understand that a new council would want to review previously endorsed council documents. So obviously the strategic property asset plan that we have in place should be reviewed, and we've committed to doing that early next year with this chamber. In relation to the bus station site, you'll see from the admin comment that EOI process has closed, and this council will be provided with an opportunity to choose to proceed or not. That will be the will of this council.
So it doesn't do anything? Are there other EOIs going on at the moment?
So there are several elements. The first part is to suspend sales and contracts. The second and third is for the golf and the lake.
Yeah, so do we have any ongoing expressions of interest at the moment, and do we have any other sales of contracts that would be suspended as a result, or any expressions of interest process which would be halted as a result of item 1?
Through the chair, no.
So, Councillor Giles, were you? Sorry, Couros, Councillor Couros.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, probably tired of me getting up. Sorry. I have to speak to this because I think it's really important for everyone to understand what the motion means. And I know as new councillors, it's probably difficult to get your head around with the way that things work in here, because we haven't made a decision on the mini golf, right? We haven't. The Rymal Park is also subject to a grant that the government has given us. So it's in our long-term in our budget, because we have a deal in which council has received 3.6 and 2.6, and the council is putting in $2 million. So it is so. If we don't go ahead and we don't start the process with the lake, we will lose that funding. Simple as that. So we have to go forward. We have to keep going forward. And if we don't, then we don't make any progress with Rymal Park. So I think you need to be very clear with that. Also need to be very clear to understand that the EOI processes have already all been done. And they've been concluded, and at the end of the day, they're going to come into council and you're going to make a decision on them. So no decision has been done. So all of these items that are in this motion are going to come into council, whereby you're going to be able to make a decision on them. So if you suspend them, point 1, suspending the EOI means nothing because we don't have any other projects yet. And not
not spending any further money on the other items could impact our funding from the state government. So I think you need to think very carefully if you're going to vote for this motion. I understand that, you know, it seems a bit overwhelming, but there are processes in place which comes to council for you to make a decision on. And that's all I have to say, really.
Lord Mayor, I think we just need to clarify what we're actually dealing with here, and I'm hearing a couple of different things here. So thanks to Deputy Lord Mayor for raising the issue. It's important as an incoming council we get our head around these issues. But is the administration saying that against number one there are no expressions of interest processes? I think that's still, when I look around the chamber, there's still different nods and shakes of heads, so that would be interesting to understand that, Lord Mayor. From my understanding, based on the discussion, is there is no business case yet for the North Adelaide mini golf project. And then 2.2 seems reasonable because it is all we're asking for is presents before any further expenditure is incurred the budget and the expected cost. So we're asking for information. So I think we just need to clarify the exact status of the underlying information behind here so we can make a decision.
Thank you through the chair. Just to be clear, with regard to item number one, there is no EOI process currently underway. Mr McCready, can you just confirm that, please, or clarify?
Through you, Lord Mayor, the EOI process that the Deputy Lord Mayor referenced is the old bus station site. That officially closed on the 30th of November, where the evaluation panel is about to make its recommendation, which will be presented to Council in the new year and is a decision of Council. That was under direction of Council to go out to that process. Number one, Lord Mayor, will come early in the new year, probably February.
Councillor Davis, is this a question or a
question? In relation to 2.2, is the council administration currently working to a motion of council, and does this prevent the administration from continuing to work on that item? And alternatively, could the administration tomorrow send us, because it doesn't request that the information, for example, come back to council, could the administration simply send it to us via email tomorrow, in which case we would have that information, and so then then the project wouldn't be interrupted without a motion of council?
Lord Mayor, the motion is very clear. It actually says report to a meeting of council, committee of council.
Yep.
So thank you. In terms of Rymel Park, you'd seen the admin comment that's out for registration of interest and ROI process. So Mr McCready, do you want to explain the impact that this decision will have on the process that we're currently in?
So I think that we're slightly clearer. It's quite complicated. Would you like to sum up, or Councillor Giles wishes to speak?
Sorry, could I just ask another question? In terms of the sale of the sale of housing assets, I'm assuming that isn't. I mean, is that an ongoing rolling process, or is it has it finished?
This is the NRAS.
That's completed. Thank you through the chair. That's completed.
Councillor Aboriginal, sir.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I believe we were about to get some clarification on the ROI process through Director McCready. No, ROI. Registration of interest.
Through you, Lord Mayor, the registration of interest is part of an ongoing tender process like we do with all our capital work, so it's not an expression of interest. We're actually testing the market in regards to capability, capacity, and to understand their costs. We would then come back to council and report on that, and naturally we go through a tender process, which is as per all our capital works process. The significant milestone in this is the state government funding lapses in August 2023.
So then is there a risk that we lose that funding of whatever it is, $2.4 million that state government has put on the table?
Through you, Lord Mayor, I would need to take that one on notice and have a conversation with the state government to see if they have the appetite to extend that.
Lord Mayor, if I may, I would just like to clarify that point. Given that the Rymal Park project has come through to Cattle-Tiller. Cattle-Tiller are the advisory body who have in turn provided the advice to both state government and council, and they have approved that project, and in turn council has approved this upgrade. So members, as you can see, that project has essentially gone through the process. It's been looked at by the experts on Cattle-Tiller, and that recommendation has been taken on board by council. So if we were to essentially apply that approach and principle to every single project that's currently happening, I think we'll be bringing this place to a grinding halt. So this has gone through the process. I do suggest that if members do have any questions or if there's any further clarification that you do need, do speak to administration. But from my perspective, this project has gone through a process, and we're there's essentially a risk here of losing $2.5 million, and I, for one, certainly don't want to take that risk.
So, Council, would you be happy to take this in parts, or do you want to put it in
Lord Mayor, I'm happy to take it in parts, but I would like the opportunity to respond to some of the comments that have been made. I'm summing up.
No, it's still like...
Because it's getting late, and I don't think we're going to move any closer to the facts. Councillor Ho.
Yeah, Lord Mayor, I mean, there has been enough discussion about part 2. I'll just talk about part 1 first. I just like briefly talk about part 1. The decision has been made by Council back into January 2022, and basically at the end of the day, now the EOI process has been finished, right? And admin is about to bring us a report earlier next year. By using the word suspend, we basically telling the proponent that you are out, done deal. All right. So, and it is actually quite dangerous by doing so. On one hand, we are sending the messages to all the private sectors saying that you just basically don't deal with the council at the 4th year of a term, because things could happen afterwards. Second, after the admin and the proponents spend so much time and effort in terms of such a big, massive EOI process, and then majority of the members still don't know what is actually going on with the site. Because like when the motion passed in January 2022, afterwards, if I'm not wrong, there were few reports actually bring back to council for the members to discuss and to vote on. And hence, can actually keep going with the process. So my suggestion here is, I do believe before the administration bring the report back for us to vote in the chamber, there will be workshops, reports to basically brief, give enough information to the new members who were not in the process before. Hence, at the end of the day, the council can actually make decisions on whether or not we accept their application or accept their offer, so-called offer, all right? And it's just danger that, like here on item 13 from the admin's comment, it is a reputational risk that basically we are telling the other proponents that just don't deal with us. It is a risk. Thank you.
I think we're getting to the end of the line with this because we're not actually getting any closer, and I think people have decided how they're going to vote. Councillor Davis, one question.
No, I'd like
You're
to speak
speaking.
To the motion. Yeah. My personal reading of the motion and the manner in which it's drafted is saying that pending a presentation by the administration of the elected body, which signals that there will be a workshop on this matter to the next committee meeting, in the interim presents any further expenditure before any expenditure is incurred, the budget. So my reading of this motion would be that before the next meeting that we be presented with this budget and that no further expenditure is incurred until we receive it. So in my view, if we received tomorrow that budget and those papers, then that wouldn't stop the current proposal. I would also like to speak to the first motion and highlight how dangerous, that's how I read it. No, that's how I see it. Pending a presentation to council that we ask the administration to give us documents. Anyway, that's how I read it. Can I also speak? I'm currently managing a significant project, and I have had the opportunity to deal quite closely with potential joint venture partners in those projects, and I do now have a very decent understanding of how JV partners will deal with a partner like council or any other. When you're essentially submitting to the market that you'll commence an expression of interest process and then halt it halfway through, you're signalling to them that you're not going to go through that process or even consider the proposal that would come through. Now, item 1, as per the administration's comment, doesn't do anything, but the signal you are setting and sending to JV partners is that if you do a whole bunch of work, that potentially this council won't look at it. Now, Deputy Lord Mayor, I actually agree with everything he said in his speech. But I don't think that this motion does that, and I actually think it's incredibly dangerous to achieving that outcome. Now, my view is that we've run an expression of interest process. Those reports will come back to council, and I will consider those expressions of interest fully in their utmost capacity, as I think council should, having gone out and asked for them. Whatever we subsequently resolve to do, that's a matter for us and a decision for a future time. But I definitely wouldn't suggest that we go to the market saying, if we ask you for an expression of interest, there's a pretty good chance that we'll cancel that process and waste your time, because it means that JV partners will not go down that path in future. And to think that your site is the best, it's not true. There's actually hundreds of sites when developers and potential JV partners are looking at deploying their capital. One of the biggest things, particularly if they're going to a JV, and many of them just won't because it's too much effort, is the quality and the ability for your JV partner to come along that process and actually see it through in a timely manner so that their capital isn't being wound up. And point 1 to me says that this is sending a signal to the market that we're not going to deal in good faith when we ask for this. So I'd absolutely suggest you vote down 1, and 2, to me, I don't think we can hold up major expenditure off the back of a motion on notice.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, this is a level of government. Governments change constantly. Governments change direction. This is about keeping an option open for each of you. As it stands, there is an expression of interest process that is not complete. No documents have been presented to you. There is an evaluation committee preparing a recommendation for you. You will be asked to vote to approve or not approve whatever it is a developer has in mind for a site. I'm saying to you, now is the time for this council to ask itself, does it really want to go through a process of allocating land to a developer for their best possible development, or does it want to say, hang on, we actually have a view. We are a level of government, a new council, which is entitled to have a view about the kind of development we will commit this council and other councils to for years to come. And secondly, there is an expression of interest process approved for the Dunn Street car park. I voted against it. It hasn't been actioned. This actually stops it. It says suspend for the time being until we have that chat. Secondly, I don't know of any organisation that allocates several $1 million to an enterprise such as a mini golf course without seeing a business case, which is being told you'll get one soon. Soon you'll be told why it's a good idea. That's not the way to do business. And finally, in respect of the Rymel Park Lake proposal, this council voted down the community, voted against the community's preferred option, and is accepting, if you turn to page 94 of your budget tonight, a recommendation from the council to accept this project, knowing that, and I quote, detailed design has now commenced and will be complete by 2022. Indicative costing suggests a project shortfall. That is to say, they can't tell us how much. They can't tell us what it will cost. And yet, you're being asked to approve it. I'm saying to you, there is nothing illegitimate about this council saying, we want to pause, we want to consider, and it may be that we'll proceed, but we want the opportunity. We are the body that approves. And so I ask you to support this, each part of it, and then if you decide, after the presentation of the information, that what you're being told by the administration and by Councillor Kouros and Councillor Davis is correct, then you proceed. But if you think what you're being asked to do may not work, may actually limit options for this council, may in fact put us in further debt, then you should say, I'll support this, I'll support every part of it. I'm happy to take it in parts. I'm asking for everyone to support all of it.
Yeah. So part one, which is suspension prior to the completion of the EI, which has risks, will prevent it coming back in February.
Lord Mayor, no, I'm asking that these matters come to committee of council for discussion, not that they just simply be removed.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought that we were going to re-examine the whole project. I'm completely sorry, I did misunderstand. So it would still come back to council in January or February. So the word suspension.
Lord Mayor, look, I don't wish to debate this again. I'm happy for this to go to a motion, but having the motion interpreted for me is not helpful. We are at a point where we can vote on it, and if people don't accept it, I'm happy for them to vote against it.
I'd just like to ask a question, how the administration actually understands the motion.
We've got beyond another question, I think. I think you're struggling on it. Yes, I am now. Yeah.
Can't we just reword it? I don't understand what it's supposed to say. I really don't.
It's finished.
I'm not doing it.
You are.
No.
I'm just taking advice about how we can resolve this, because it seems to me we're unclear about the wording, and I just want to make sure we're not doing something that's either ultra vires or confusing for the staff. We can't leave it on the table if this was not being done.
It says pending a presentation.
What happens in the
But then
presentation?
if it could not be taken off the table in January.
We'll discuss it.
But that says we get a presentation. But it says pending a presentation, presenting information. So waiting for, which means it's two, doesn't stop anything.
It does.
No, it's saying we're waiting for a workshop. In the meantime, give us this information.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't say present that information at the next, at the meeting. No, it doesn't.
Can I suggest that we have pending a presentation by the, if we take it in two parts, this clause at the beginning would have to be repeated, pending a presentation by the administration to the current elected body at the next appropriate committee or council.
It's not amending, taking.
It's to make it clear by separating the two parts. That's.
It's not an amendment. Would you like me to clarify?
I'm sorry, say it. I'm trying to find a way that will allow you to vote on this because it's confused at the moment. That actually will allow us to understand what we're voting on. So we'll take.
Can it be point 1B that the administration prepare a workshop?
We can't amend it now. It's summed up.
We can't.
These things, and then it's the same motion, I think. And then point 2 suspends everything, and then point 3 suspends any work in relation to.
So we can't keep amending it, but all I'm trying to do is clarify it by saying we have to have pending a presentation for both parts if we vote separately. That's how I'm trying to frame it. Pending a presentation, we'll have part 1, and pending a presentation, we'll have part 2. Yes?
So just to clarify, this is not an amendment. This is purely to make it clear what you're voting on, because Councillor Martin has agreed to take it in two parts. So essentially, pending is a duplication to explain that pending part one is taking part one because in its entirety versus pending for part two, because without it, it makes no sense. So that's what, it's just purely for clarity to make it sense when you're voting. That's all it is. Does that help? Yeah, correct. Just for the vote.
No, we're not amending it.
Council members, the division has been called on part one of the motion. All those in favour, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentrit, Councillor Snape, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
All those in favour of part two, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called.
Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentrit, Councillor Snape, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Giles.
I have a seconder from Councillor Kouros. And look, Lord Mayor, in the interests of brevity, the administration has answered that the matter will be put on the agenda in March. I'm happy with that response. I think Councillor Kouros is. If it's simply put to a vote, I'll be content. No, I'm happy with the information which is provided. It meets the requirement. If you want me to, I can amend that to March meeting.
So this is about the meeting recycling.
Yes.
Anything that can happen in March, and not worry about it coming back to February. Variations, lead to have variations or not.
That's fine.
Well, I'd just like to ask the mover if he's happy to accept a small variation or I take it as an amendment. Just to add program to North Adelaide and Market District. Market District. Yeah. Yeah, because like put it this way, Lord Mayor, this has been. I actually like this motion very much. Indeed, like the first time I spoke to the former Lord Mayor Martin Hasey back to 2016, and I couldn't believe that we haven't had this in our city. It has been way overdue, and now finally we have something in our customer centre. And since like since the Deputy Lord Mayor will have something in North Adelaide, and I just want something to have in my area as well. Thank you.
Only to bring back a report, so that I think it's quite a simple decision. It's not to actually commit funds. So that's seconded by Councillor Giles. Why don't we put that to the vote? All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. It's unanimous. Any motions without motions? It's very quick.
If it's not ready, we won't take it. Okay.
You can decide whether or not it's time critical and whether it should come on notice to the next meeting, but if it is time
I'll move this and seek a seconder.
Councillor Snape.
We had a discussion recently about the review into the Planning and Development Act, and the timeframes are extremely tight, so that's why this is an urgent motion. Over the last few weeks, we've been meeting with people who are extremely concerned about having their voice heard in this review, who live in the City of Adelaide, and unfortunately, it's not going to be very easy for them from now on to be able to put in anything into the review, because submissions end on the 16th of January for the general public. However, we've got an extension of time to January the 30th, so this motion is calling for us to actually use as an opportunity to ask our community, because we are have specific issues in the City of Adelaide, whether to inform them that there is this review going on, to ask whether if they've made a submission to that review, then they pass it on to the council, but also give them an opportunity to express their views about the current Planning and Development Act, so that we can use that material as part of our submission. So it's calling for the administration to work out how we could do that in the appropriate way.
So is there any contrary view? Everyone's in favour of it then? Can I put the motion? All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you.